I have concepts of a plan.
You wouldn't be high by any chance, would you? Thank God it's Friday. The guy.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Jake, you Annika's pairing on a Friday. What a rare treat. Okay, we like this. We have a lot to get to today. We've got the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs, Donald Trump losing his mind over it. We'll tell you why they ruled the way that they did, the ramifications of it, etc. That's later in the show. Obviously, war with Iran is imminent. We're going to talk about that. But also, Tucker Carlson drops an interview with Mike Huckabee, and it is startling. I mean, we know that Mike Huckabee works for Israel and not America, but wait till you see the details where Huckabee basically calls for a genocide and says that Israel doesn't owe anybody anything, that we should be giving them even more money and working for them even more. I mean, Jesus, it's an amazing interview. So you hold on for that. That's how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited for the first hour today. I'm excited for the whole show, but man, that interview with Huckabee was illuminating, to say the least. And there were no third rails for Tucker Carlson. He was ready and willing to ask about anything. We're talking Epstein files. We're talking about, obviously, my favorite part was why we went to war with Iraq. So just buckle up for that. But before we get to any of that, we do need to give you all an update on the potential war with Iran. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I don't care about Iran at all. I care about America. And if blowing up Iran makes my country richer and safer, I'm for it. And if it doesn't, I'm totally opposed. It's that simple. I think most Americans feel that way, no?
How many boots on the ground has the US placed on behalf of Israel?
However many went to Iraq. We did that for Israel.
No, I don't think we did.
But you said we did it because of 9/11?
That was the US justification for it.
Now, that might be literally the only thing I've heard Mike Huckabee say that's correct. The American people were absolutely manipulated by our government in the aftermath of 9/11 to do a preemptive war on a country that had nothing to do with 9/11. And Jane, currently we are barreling toward another war based on false pretenses on behalf of Israel. But I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, so in this story, there's a couple of shocking developments that we're gonna tell you about. One is that the New York Times has done a good story about this. Oh my God, yes, okay. Asking this simple question, why? Why are we going to Iran? And then you're gonna see Democrats, of course, betray us and support Israel and demand this war instead. So Anna, tell us all about it.
Well, look, we still don't have a clear picture in regard to the scope of this war with Iran, this seemingly impending war with Iran. It could be a limited strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, which I thought we had already completely obliterated, which is something that Trump repeatedly said, and its ballistic missiles. It could also be a sustained military campaign, and we don't know how long that would last, how long it would take. We don't know whether we'd have boots on the ground. There's a lot of confusion and a lack of clarity when it comes to something that's pretty serious and would cost the United States a lot in terms of blood and treasure. But nonetheless, Donald Trump seems to be totally fine with this uncertainty, and even conservative media figures like Rachel Campos Duffy are kind of frustrated about this because a lot is on the line, including people's sons and daughters. So let's take a look at what she had to say.
The president made a case for Operation Midnight Hammer, saying we're gonna do this operation and then we're not going to have to do anything else. Remember, there was a lot of bragging about that. And I think most people, even those who were skeptical about going in and doing that, at the end were like, okay, I can deal with this because I don't want a greater war. I think that the president needs to make a better case as to why this is in American interest to potentially go into a kinetic war. I don't think the case has been made sufficiently for me. If you read the New York Times, there's a lot of people who also feel that way. If you're going to get us potentially into a war, you have to explain why it matters to us, not to other countries, but to us.
Now, Rachel Campos Duffy is asking President Donald Trump to do the impossible, to explain how going to war with Iran would benefit the United States. It wouldn't. There's no way in which it would benefit the United States. Iran's ballistic missiles are not capable of reaching the US. The only country that has a vested interest in regime change war in Iran, of course, is Israel. Trump knows that, which is why he keeps waffling on this issue, and we have no idea what he will ultimately decide. We do know that Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, has met with him seven separate times in Trump's first year in office, during his second term, obviously. But look, since the president has done a poor job expressing to the United States, to the American people, how this war would benefit us in any way, shape, or form, maybe we can turn to a Democratic senator. Let's hear from John Fetterman, who appears to now live at the Fox News studios. Take a look.
If they have 900 pounds of near weapons grade uranium, why wouldn't you strike that? Why wouldn't you hold them accountable that way? And now here we are again, and now we've demonstrated that's the only thing Iran ever responds to is strength and power and hit them. And if they want to hit them again, because I don't think you can't really trust and negotiate with them. You can't negotiate with cancer. You have to attack it and go right at it with superior force.
So John Fetterman just says, hey, you know what? Just go to war. Who cares? You should just hit them. You can't negotiate with cancer. We have all sorts of allies across the globe who are unsavory, to say the least. Saudi Arabia being one of them, by the way. Israel is conducting a genocide and is engaging in a land grab in multiple countries, okay, in Lebanon and in Syria. They have broken every ceasefire deal. In fact, they have carried out more than 100 airstrikes against Lebanon since they agreed to a ceasefire. So you want to talk about who cannot be trusted? Israel is the country that lied to us about Iraq's so-called weapons of mass destruction, which of course they didn't have. That's what convinced the American people that we needed to go to war with Iraq in 2003. It's just amazing to me, Cenk, that we find ourselves in the same place we were in 2002, 2003. And luckily this time around, a lot of Americans aren't falling for it. The fact that Rachel Campos Duffy was able to say what she said on the Fox News channel is kind of a big deal when you think about it. But I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, so let's also remember, by the way, her husband is Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation in this Trump administration. Look, she's been a talk show host for a long time, so she speaks for herself and not necessarily for her husband. But it's still an interesting thing to note here how close the rebellion is to the Trump administration, because I think that she's reacting mainly to what she's seeing from the audience, and right-wing audience is completely turned around on Israel and on Iran. So yeah, there's some portions of MAGA for sure that still say, oh, as long as we just bomb them and we never get hurt, there's never a scratch on us, then it's gonna be fine. First of all, that's not how wars go. Second of all, this is not just a bombing campaign, as we described to you guys earlier, and Axios is reporting weeks-long campaign, maybe months-long campaign, and trying, some believe trying for regime change, so much longer, more protracted. Transport planes are on their way, etc. And people are asking the same question that everybody's asking, Tucker asked, which is, what does this have to do with us? And Huckabee's answer was revealing, because he's like, well, our justification was 9/11. When asked, did we do the war, Iraq war, for Israel? Well, our justification was 9/11. So yeah, we did it for, I mean, Huckabee loves Israel and serves Israel loyally. We're gonna get back into that later in the program. And even he can't muster up an excuse. And we've lost $8 trillion in the global war on terror, otherwise known as the global war on Israel's enemies. And yes, they definitely wanted us to go into Iraq. Anyone saying otherwise is 100% lying. We have all the quotes of the neocons, including Benjamin Netanyahu. That demanded that we go into Iraq, which then brings us to Fetterman. So Fetterman says the same nonsense we heard before the Iraq war. Weapons of mass destruction, 900 pounds of uranium, and they're evil and they're a cancer. We can't talk to evil. That's literally what Dick Cheney said. And the only thing they understand is violence. That's why we have to do massive violence on them before they even touched us. They haven't done anything to us, but we should do massive, massive violence because all they understand is violence. Whenever I hear them talking, Anna, I like the Israelis, Israel first, and that definitely includes Fetterman and Huckabee. I feel like it's just one giant confession. All you have to do is flip it, and instead of Iran, all they want is to dominate the Middle East, and they're a cancer there, constantly endangering the security of everyone else. Like, you're describing Israel, right? Iran has not attacked any of its neighbors. Israel has attacked almost all their neighbors. And finally, Trump, for this round, Trump says, I'm anti-war and America first. He gets in and says, I'm just kidding, I'm totally pro-war and Israel first. So you vote for him, you get Israel first. We vote for Fetterman thinking, my God, the guy's totally anti-war, progressive, populist, etc. American voters first. Nope, he comes in, nope, Israel first, totally pro-war. So no matter who you vote for, you get Israel. So mainstream media can lie till the cows come home, and they will, but the rest of us are all noticing who our politicians actually work for, and it isn't us.
You're exactly right about that. And in fact, right now there is an effort, I think that it's probably going to be a fruitless one, to kind of rein in the Trump administration because, prior to 9/11, Congress had a lot more say in regard to whether or not the United States goes to war. Now, after 9/11, unfortunately, Congress ceded much of its war powers to the executive branch. And now that Trump is considering a sustained military campaign against Iran, which would be absolutely brutal and disastrous for the United States, you have Representative Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie working together yet again. It's a bipartisan effort to put a war powers resolution on the House floor as early as next week. Now, it would prevent President Donald Trump from unilaterally declaring war against Iran, but there is a pretty big problem. There's an obstacle here. Most Republicans, of course, are willing to just go along with whatever Trump wants to do on any issue. And unfortunately, this happens to be one of them. There's still plenty of neocons in the Republican Party. Let's not forget about that either. And 2 Democrats have already stated that they will oppose the resolution. Okay, so they are Representatives Josh Gottheimer and Jared Moskowitz. So let's hear from Moskowitz, who says they should just rename it the Ayatollah Protection Act because that's what it does. Okay, we should just name you, the representative from Israel. Because explain to me, Moskowitz, exactly why the United States should attack Iran when Iran does not pose a threat to the US. Its ballistic missiles can't reach us. So what are we gonna get out of it? Because we're gonna pay for that war. Money we don't have, by the way, so we're gonna increase our national debt, which is already disastrous enough. And if it is a sustained military campaign in an effort to overthrow the regime in Iran, then you have no choice. You need to have boots on the ground. And obviously that risks the lives of our soldiers. But even if you don't get to that point, obviously we have soldiers based in that region who will be a target should this war pop off. So there's that. Now let's take a look at how much money these individuals have taken from AIPAC. AIPAC Tracker does great work. And when it comes to Jared Moskowitz, that number is $741,058. When it comes to Josh Gottheimer, it's over $2 million. Cenk, back to you.
Yeah, they're sellouts. They have betrayed America. They work for Israel. It's crystal clear. They're supposed to be Democrats who are anti-war. The minute Israel wants war with Iran, they say absolutely. And if you are not in favor of it, you're in favor of the Ayatollah. Sounds like Dick Cheney, okay? So I don't want anybody to get confused, okay? There's wonderful Jewish American legislators who've been opposed to this throughout. Bernie Sanders doesn't take any AIPAC money, is opposed to sending more money to Israel for offensive weapons. Jan Schakowsky, we're going to talk about later in the show about wonderful progressive Democrat who's Jewish American, saying withdrew her endorsement from another candidate because she took money from AIPAC. She's like, no more money from AIPAC, okay? And so that's beautiful. So I don't want you guys to see Moskowitz and Gottheimer, who are core evil, and make any wrong assumptions. They just have chosen to serve Israel instead of America. That's their personal choice. They partly out because of the legalized bribery. You see the millions of dollars they've taken. And for whatever other reason. But those two, I've tracked their career. They are loyal to Israel in every way. They always vote for Israel. Not only do they do that, they're the kind of thugs who come around, and if you don't support Israel, they say you're an anti-Semite, you should never be allowed to speak, your career should be ruined, etc. They try to bully Americans into serving their beloved Israel. They're disgusting, and we should not go to war for Moskowitz and for Gottheimer and for all of Israel first, including Fetterman and Mike Huckabee. It isn't about religion, guys. There's a cancerous group in this country. Yes, there's Christian Zionists, there's other religions, etc. But that's not the uniting thing. The uniting thing is they have decided, for either because of largely for money, but there might be other reasons, including, yes, potentially blackmail, that they are 100% going to serve Israel. This war with Iran has no benefits for America at all. We already wiped out their nuclear facilities. Their ballistic missiles can't reach us. They're saying that Israel and American politicians are so concerned about Muslim lives in Iran. That's why their heart is broken and they want to serve the Iranian people. Literally no one in the country is that dumb to believe that, literally no one. I mean, as they say it out loud, they probably have to be humiliated that Israel forced them to say such a stupid talking point that no one would believe. So what's our interest? They say, well, I mean, they also help Hamas and Hezbollah. Yeah, that's Israel's issue. Those organizations haven't attacked us. They barely even exist now. Israel already obliterated them. No, Israel wants the entire Middle East totally defenseless. And as you're gonna see later in the show with the Mike Huckabee interview, yes, the greater Israel means they want almost the entire Middle East. And the way you do that is by getting us to destroy all of those countries and their militaries so Israel can continue to expand, which they have expanded and expanded since 1948. And all of our politicians are almost all of them are liars, almost all of our media is liars, and they keep telling you that Israel's the victim as this imperial empire grows and grows and grows. And what is so frustrating, Anna, is that it grows with our money and our troops. Thousands of Americans died in Iraq for Israel. They never had any weapons of mass destruction, and they never did and Iraq didn't do 9/11. Iraq hated Al Qaeda. So I'm done with all of the liars. They're the conspiracy theorists. They're the sellouts working for a different country. And when they get us into this war, which is nearly inevitable, remember to blame Jared Moskowitz, Fetterman, Mike Huckabee, Gottheimer, Trump, Biden, all the sellouts who don't work for America and work for Israel. We're up to here with it. The American people can't take it anymore. So how much are these people going to continue to betray us the minute Iran sinks any of our ships? This country should be on fire against Israel, They're 100% the reason we're going to this war. Literally no one can give us a single other reason that we have to fight that war other than Israel has ordered us to. And they bought our politicians, sellout sons of bitches. I'm 10,000 times more angry at them than I am at Israel.
Well, when we come back from the break, I want to just discuss this incredible 2.5 hour long interview that Tucker Carlson had with the US ambassador to Israel. And that's of course Mike Huckabee. Lots to get to, you don't wanna miss it. We'll be right back.
All right, so let's go to our members at TYT.com. Amber of Hope says, Anna, so glad to watch live today. Kuna Matata says, Anna, on a Friday, this is the best power panel we've ever had. Ben, I agree with Anna, I'm not sure about that. Benjamin says, I don't know that she said that. Benjamin says, TYT's spoiling us. Don't shoot on the goalkeeper says, I don't care about Iran. Wow, something I agree with Tucker Carlson on. Well, watch that interview, watch my interview with him, watch Anna's interview with him, and you'll see a lot that you agree with Tucker Carlson on. There's still tons of things we disagree with Tucker Carlson on, but you guys know my feelings about that. All right, Wong John says, if they're gonna reboot Dick Cheney, could they at least cast someone a little less pathetic than Fetterman?
For real.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's the thing with Israel. They're such a blunt instrument, and they're so arrogant. They think, we don't have to find someone appealing. Let's find another ogre like Dick Cheney. Who cares if we drive his popularity to 9%? They're just junk we use as a tool to get America to do whatever we want, and then we dispose of them. And that's what they did with Cheney, and that's what they'll do with Fetterman. And when he's in a garbage heap somewhere, he'll be like, oh, what happened to me? I was so loyal to you, Israel. Yeah, okay. I hope that John Fetterman is miserable the rest of his life. I don't know a bigger traitor than that son of a bitch. Okay, anyways, Happy Warrior Dragons, thank you for gifting a sub. On Twitch, we appreciate you. Eddie Jameson, thank you for gifting a membership on YouTube. We appreciate you. Acoustics Minor writes in on YouTube member section, and on a Friday, whoa, 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 said in Harry Enton's voice. Did I do that right? Eddie Jameson writes in, I saw someone online today say Democrats in Congress could create a shadow cabinet to offer policy alternatives leading up to midterms in 2028. Maybe Ro Khanna could lead that. Let's call his office. Eddie, I got bad news for you. Ro, like most Democrats in Congress don't like Ro. They think he's embarrassing them by taking action. And they're like, oh, and he's complaining about Israel. Oh, we're supposed to serve Israel. I'm getting all these bribes from Israel, and Ro's kind of exposing us. So that's why they always hated Bernie. They hate anyone who's honest and clean. So our revolution is trying. I interviewed their executive director last night. You can check that out on The Conversation, which is another YouTube channel we have, and of course, members get everything on tyt.com. Anyways, they are bringing together some progressives to offer a different agenda. They're not really bills, but it's at least a plan. Not bad. It's a good effort. That's a start. So there's some tiny bit of signs of life there. Neo Saturn says Bibi should just move into the White House. Yeah, I mean he almost has. He's been here 7 or 8 times. And by the way, one of the Congress people that when I was in Washington, I heard about said that they're like, I don't get why Ro's being talked about for maybe presidential candidate. They're like, I raise more money than him. I have more donors. Okay, that's how corrupt Washington is. You want to talk about a cancer? Washington is the cancer. Lady AF says aliens. That's so interesting. Epstein, never heard of him. Yeah, now by the way, not just Trump. But Obama came out. Aliens, aliens, everybody look at aliens. Don't look at Epstein files, look at aliens. Bradley Gisli says, who do you think Trump's favorite Democrat? I'm nominating Senator John Fetterman. Who are you nominating? No, it's definitely Fetterman, that's no question. All right, we'll be back.
Whoa!
All right, back on TYT, Jake and Anna with you guys. Anna, what's next?
This is next.
Why do you expect me to have knowledge of something like that?
Well, because you attacked me personally for suggesting that Jeffrey Epstein had ties to Mossad, just as like a man and a father and a Christian. How could you resist saying, like, were you on Pedo Island with Jeffrey Epstein? Well, there is a charged child molester.
But I'm saying if you are very involved in the details of this,
I'm not.
And you think it's the US government that's hiding and shielding somebody, then bring it up to the people that you personally know.
I don't think that, I know it.
Tucker Carlson traveled to Israel, which is of course not without risk, to interview the US ambassador to Israel. And of course that's Mike Huckabee. And it was a wide-ranging conversation / debate about various issues tied to Israel. As you just saw from that video, Cenk, they did touch the topic of Epstein and his connection to Mossad, which we'll get to in just a minute. But what I was really impressed by was the fact that Tucker asked him everything. I mean, he asked Huckabee about his meeting with Jonathan Pollard, a well-known traitor to the United States who sold our secrets to the Israelis. And the Israelis then in turn sold our secrets to the Soviets, who were our obvious enemies at the time. Just an incredible interview, and I can't wait to show you the clips. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to get straight to the clips because you'll see Huckabee also talks about that Israel should have the entire Middle East. And of course, we should pay for it. All right. Let's do it.
He does indeed say that, so stick around for that. But first, let's get to the part of the conversation where they discuss Jonathan Pollard. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with this figure, he's the guy who used to work for the US CIA. He sold US secrets to Israel, and then Israel then sold those secrets to the Soviet Union. Trump allowed the scumbag to return to Israel, cut his sentence short. To be fair, he did serve 30 years in prison, but as I've said on this show before, as a traitor to our country, I think that the punishment should have been much harder than prison time. And since he was encouraged, since he's gone back to Israel, he has encouraged other Jewish Americans to spy on our country on behalf of Israel. Now, Huckabee claims that the clandestine meeting that he had with this traitor wasn't really that big of a deal, right? He claims it wasn't even a secret because there's so much surveillance at the US embassy. Not buying it, the White House didn't know anything about it, at least that's what they allege. Now here's Tucker Carlson confronting Huckabee about this meeting with traitor Jonathan Pollard.
So this was the most profound betrayal of the United States in my lifetime. Why advocate for that guy's release before he serves his full sentence?
Let's remember it was President Trump who probably facilitated his departure. And I'm certainly supportive of President Trump. I think you are. And
Pollard's not. He called him a madman after your meeting.
That's why I say Pollard is not, for me, the real issue. It was the fact that he did something that was despicable. I'm not denying that. You make it sound like I'm hosting a meeting. I simply met with him. I meet with people all the time.
Some can just walk in without a...
No, they have to have an appointment. Of course they do.
Oh, so it is hosting him then, I think.
Well, I don't know if it was hosting, but it was certainly, he was able to come to the US Embassy to have a meeting at his request. I did. And frankly, I don't regret it. I met with a lot of people over the course of the time I've been here, and we'll meet with a lot more. That's it.
Huckabee doesn't regret it. Huckabee doesn't regret taking a meeting with a well-known traitor to the United States, who, by the way, has also suggested that Israel threatened the US with its nukes if we refuse to give them what they want. And so that's who Mike Huckabee is. I would argue that the willingness to meet with Pollard and his lack of remorse about it is a form of being a traitor as well. But well, it's amazing to me.
Yeah. So look, I'm going to get to the most important question about Pollard and Huckabee in a second. But first, Pollard said, "Hey, all Jewish Americans should betray America in favor of Israel." Nothing endangers Jewish Americans more than a comment like that. But always to serve Israel, not to serve Jewish Americans, but to serve Israel. So secondly, you know who flew Jonathan Pollard back in a private jet to say, great job for betraying America? The Adelsons did. The #1 donors to Donald Trump. They've given him over $300 million, and they think Jonathan Pollard is a hero. Obviously, he's not a hero to America, he's a hero to Israel, and the Adelsons serve Israel. They bribe our politicians legally here in America to make sure that they also serve Israel. And you could tell, there's nothing more spectacular than, I'm gonna give you a private jet to fly you back in class for betraying America, okay? So that's who controls this government. That's why guys like Huckabee do what they do. It's not complicated. The only reason that everybody in the country doesn't know that is because mainstream media's job is not to cover the news, but to cover up the news. That's why they never tell you these unbelievable brazen facts. So was it a secret meeting? Well, he didn't tell the White House or the CIA. The CIA kind of flipped out over it, which was nice to see because apparently there's still some Americans inside the CIA. And so, but the most important question, Anna, is why? Why did you meet with Jonathan Pollard? Because what could you possibly get out of that meeting other than, I mean, if I was in a meeting with him, I would have some choice words for him. I mean, the only reason I can imagine is Mike Huckabee was asking for tips on how to betray America.
I mean, honestly, obviously he didn't disclose any details about what they discussed. He simply said that Pollard wanted to come in and thank him because he was so polite and nice to him after Pollard's wife passed away.
Oh, come on.
Look, they're laughing in our faces, and every single American should be furious and insulted by this. And in fact, this part of the conversation really stood out to me because if you look at the quality of life for Americans versus the quality of life for Israelis, honestly, it's night and day, especially when it comes to like various social programs that they get to enjoy that we don't have here in the US. And at the same time, we're the ones who pay for their wars. We give them nearly $4 billion a year. Every time they get involved in some sort of conflict or genocide, we fund that on top of the nearly $4 billion a year. So keep that in mind as you hear this part of their exchange.
Over, say, the last 20 years, America's not gotten richer or freer at all. And I come to Israel and the infrastructure, we were flying in, and I said to my buddy, I was like, man, first of all, looks great. I love the agriculture in Israel because it's beautiful. I love green. I love plants.
I remember when it didn't look like that.
Yeah.
First time I came in 53 years ago.
It's great.
It did not look like that.
Great. Looks a lot nicer than our country. And it has higher standard of living. It has nicer roads than the United States. And so it's like, okay, why are we sending all this money to a country that has a higher standard of living than ours?
I don't know that they have a higher standard of living.
They do, actually. They have free health care. They also have free abortion. Are you okay with that?
I personally don't like that.
Why would we be subsidizing? Why would we send any
We're
money?
not.
Why would we send any money to a country that provides free abortion?
Because the money that we send does not pay for health care, it does not pay for abortion, it pays for military things.
It's like if they don't spend it on this, they'll spend it on that.
But they do spend it on that, and then we get many more times back in the return on the investment.
Let me get this out of the way. I fully believe in the right to choose, but at the same time, these are two conservatives, allegedly, right? Huckabee claims to be one, and they claim to not want to fund abortions. And Tucker Carlson is absolutely correct. Money is fungible. So if we're paying for their war efforts, their genocides, their atrocities, obviously that frees up money for them to spend on other things. In the meantime, Americans are drowning in debt. We are suffering without the same benefits that they get to enjoy, like paid family leave, for instance. Universal health care is another example. But what's amazing to me, Cenk, is I remember Huckabee being one of those like, deficit hawk Republicans, right? These days, I don't really hear much from Republicans when it comes to our national debt, which I'm actually genuinely scared of. Like, I'm worried about the future of this country because we're already spending $1 trillion a year simply servicing the massive amount of debt that we're in, just paying the interest on that debt. But what are your thoughts on that exchange? Because I love the fact that he did that juxtaposition between our quality of life versus the quality of life for Israelis.
Yeah, so let me point out those two hypocrisies. So first off, Mike Huckabee's been saying his entire career, you have to vote against Democrats on abortion alone. So if somebody is pro-choice, they're murdering babies. Then Tucker asked him, well, why are we sending hundreds of billions of dollars to a country that allows abortion? And he's like, oh yeah, that's okay, it's Israel. Okay, all right, well and then they're gonna talk later about killing kids, and Huckabee's gonna say that it's okay to kill kids, pro-life guy. Israel killed 20,000 kids in Gaza. Huckabee's like, oh, who cares about the kids? Like they're making it so obvious. They're almost like smearing it in our face. Like, what are you gonna do about it, huh? I work for Israel. I'm Israel's ambassador. I'm not the American ambassador. Then on standard of living, so well, we're not paying for their health care. Yeah, but when you give them $330 billion, that frees up $330 billion. That's why they have universal health care. We don't. They have paid family leave. We don't. They have free college. We don't. And Netanyahu just a day or two ago gave a speech bragging about, until recently, Israel's average income was $17,000. Now it's $63,000. And where did that money come from? It came from us. They're just literally robbing us, giving it to Israel, and then going, oh, no, it makes sense because they're a special ally. So So they could break all the rules. They could break international law. They could break a pro-choice, pro-life. No one. They could commit a genocide. They could attack all their. Nothing matters. The only thing that matters is shut up and give all of your money to Israel. And if you complain about all your money being sent to Israel, you're an anti-Semite. So that's who Mike Huckabee is: traitor, loser, slave to Israel. But let's keep going.
In fact, I have to just point out something he said during a recent interview with Fox Business, because during this exchange with one of their anchors, the anchor asked, should Israel be expected to even pay 1 penny to rebuild Gaza? Now, here's the context you need to know. Trump just said that we're gonna spend, as Americans, $10 billion on rebuilding Gaza, okay? Here's what Huckabee said in response to the Fox Business anchor. Absolutely not, absolutely not. And I'll tell you, if anything, there ought to be reparations to Israel for the extraordinary fight they have had to conduct to get their hostages back. He is a traitor to the country, period. That's all you need to know.
And by the way, if you're a good Christian, he's also a terrible traitor to your religion. I mean, here's this guy saying, they just committed a genocide and murdered 20,000 babies, over 80,000 people at a bare minimum. They're planning, as you're about to see, they're planning to do it again and again and again. And he says, we should be paying them for committing the genocide. Hey, congratulations, Mike Huckabee, you got your wish. We did pay for that genocide. We paid for it completely. And now they're saying, now the places we utterly destroyed, America should clean it up. America should not only clean up Gaza, but give Israel more money for destroying Gaza. I mean, what a pathetic servant. What a servile little disgusting, barely human person.
Yeah, reparations for modern day Nazis, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the next part of this. Let me reset because it's a little bit of a different topic, similar Israel related part of the conversation. So, during Tucker Carlson's kind of contentious conversation / debate with US Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, the topic of land rights came up. Obviously, that's usually front and center when it comes to the ongoing conflict between Israel and pretty much everyone else in the region. And so in order to justify the mass slaughter campaigns and land theft from Palestinians, Israelis claim that they're, the original Israelites from the Bible and that they have a biblical right to that land. So Tucker Carlson challenged Huckabee on that. Let's take a look.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean, maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me.
Would we do that all over the world?
Well,
and everybody
this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
No, they wouldn't have the right. They wouldn't have the right to go into a country on land that doesn't belong to them and literally ethnically cleanse it and steal it from the Palestinian people. No, they wouldn't have the right to do that. That's my take on it. But hold on, Jake. Then Huckabee says that it would actually be fine if Israel took all of the Middle East. Take a look.
You have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
Yeah, he is one of the worst people on the planet, and he's a traitor to the country. And I'm talking about Mike Huckabee, of course. I also want to clarify that the theology that Tucker is challenging him on is not theology that he believes in. He's just challenging Huckabee on what he claims he believes. And it's a cult, guys. It's literally a cult, a death cult that thinks it's okay to steal, to slaughter untold, numbers of innocent people in order to take over land that doesn't belong to you. That is what he's advocating for. And he prances around pretending as though he is a good, moral Christian. No, he's a demon, okay? Bad people advocate for garbage like that. But I'm curious what you think, Cenk. Do you think that genocide and land theft is okay if your mythology somehow buys into that?
Well, look, he's not the only one saying that.
Yeah, there's a lot of demons in the world. I know.
Yeah, no. What I mean is historically, every time an imperial empire or fascists come into power, they always say that they have a genetic right to the land. That's literally what the Nazis said. They said we have a right to the Sudetenland, to Poland, to Austria. Those are our birthrights because of our genes. Israel is making an identical argument, saying we have a genetic right to this land. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. But that's why Tucker asking that question to Huckabee makes sense. Well, who has the genetic right? Because if it's a genetic right, put aside the fact that that's a fascist proposition to begin with, but don't we have to know who it is then? Like, what if I raised my hand and said, okay, I'm now Jewish, I have the right to all of that land, okay? Well, they say that's absurd. No, we're not gonna give it to you. Well, why not? Well, because you're not Jewish, you're not genetically Jewish. Or well, then let's find out who is, right? Okay, now the reality is you don't have to do any of that because there is no genetic right to land. That's insane, and again, literally fascist. And so in this case, Anna, Israel did this propaganda in America and it worked brilliantly. And strategically, I gotta give them credit for it. What they wanted was they wanted the Christians to be on their side, right? So they said, oh, the Bible says that we, not you guys, and not the Palestinians, not the people who live there, not anyone else, but we all have the right to that because that's what Christianity wants. That's what the Bible wants. That's what Jesus wants, right? Now that was a giant lie. And by the way, if we're doing it like that, okay, well, are we gonna go back into the Bible and go, okay, wait, which land now belongs to the Canaanites? How come there's no talk of the Canaanites, right? So I mean this, and then what if the Muslims go, okay, well, that's your religious belief. My religious belief is that the entire Middle East should be Muslim, including Israel. So I have a genetic right to your land. Oh, now we're at a crossroads, aren't we? We're at loggerheads. Because you don't do stupid things like genetic right to land. And of course, my favorite point is that we could always come back in, the Turks can, and go, well, brother, I had it all. So now I have the right to that land. And that's what leads to perpetual war when fascist monsters say that only their people, their ethnicity has a right to the land and they can murder anyone they want and wipe them off that land. So when Tucker asked, are you going to help Israel wipe out everybody in the Middle East, from the Nile in Egypt to the Euphrates in Turkey? And you just heard the answer. And Huckabee's like, they should have it all. And of course, we should pay for all that ethnic cleansing, all that genocide, all that war. We should pay with not only treasure, but with our blood and not theirs.
That's right. And so it doesn't matter what religious beliefs the people living in these neighboring countries believe. If it were Mormons, if it were Christians, if it were Buddhists, we would hear the exact same propaganda about them as we're hearing about Muslims today. So just remember that as our airwaves and our print media will be full of all sorts of claims, making it seem as though the bad guys here are those who are being invaded, those who are being bombed, those who are having their land stolen from them, and their, in some cases, democratically elected leaders overthrown on behalf of Israel. When you want to talk about the lack of peace in the Middle East, the heart of that conflict has been and always will be Israel as long as we enable that country. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want to get to the Epstein portion of the conversation because man, Huckabee plays dumb and Tucker doesn't budge. It's amazing. So we'll come back with that and more. Don't miss it.
Let's go to YouTube members. Wannabe Dragon 13 says, I'm surprised at Moskowitz. I thought he was one of the good ones. No, what Moskowitz does is he puts on a show. So he'll wear like cool sneakers on top of his suit, so he's so hip. And then he'll have like snarky insults of Donald Trump in hearings. Yeah, I'm a Democrat. And then when you're not looking, he's like, yes, I want war, just like Trump does. We have to support Israel. We give all your money to Israel, just like Trump wants. And that's not all. He's a corporate bitch too. So like he takes tons of corporate PAC money, serves those guys. There's so many of these frauds, guys. Like when we've been saying it for so long, and everybody's like, "Oh, you guys are so rude. You should work with Democratic colleagues." If there were just unity and you guys bowed your head and you just listened to what they said about corporations and Israel, everything would be great. Has that worked out for us? How's that worked out? No, Moskowitz is terrible. You should definitely vote against him in Democratic primaries. Gottheimer's the worst of the worst. And Gottheimer is like, oh, he's also, Gottheimer, forget Israel. Like one of the most pro-corporate Democrats in the entire Congress. There isn't any corporate bill that he hasn't loved and pushed and helped the Republicans to pass. Ran for governor, I think came in 5th or 18th or whatever he came in. None of these guys are popular. They were all propped up by mainstream media going, well, obviously Moskowitz is the leading candidate in this race. He has raised the most amount of money. And so is Gottheimer. Gottheimer's the greatest, wonderful corporate Democrat, raised so much money. He's #1. He's on the Democrat side. They never tell you about his voting record. They never tell you about how many times he betrayed you. Because, oh, shh, no, don't talk about Israel, shh. Dragonline 69 says, Bibi spends more time in the White House than Melania. Great one.
That's hilarious. That's
you know
hilarious.
what? Let's go old school on that one. You remember rewards at tyt.com, $100 Blue Apron gift card. Okay. You make us laugh out loud like that? Nice job. Rewards at tyt.com. Get that, cash in on that. Partisan Hypocrites Everywhere says, by the way, that's just for Dragonline, okay? Partisan Hypocrites Everywhere says, we give Israel benefits, we don't even give it to Americans. It's outrageous. But if you say that, you anti-Semite, like literally everyone on cable news will call you an anti-Semite for saying that. So it's just disgusting how our media works for Israel. Independent Conversation says, by the way, so nice to see Anna hosting on a Friday. That we can all agree on. Kevin Shea says, but my God can beat up your God. So there, that's the level of conversation we're having. And all media is like, oh yeah, no, that's a legitimate point. His God can beat up your God. Yeah, good point. Israel is owed the land. Shut up, kill the Muslims, take their land. God promised it to them. And he's the bigger God. He's the bully God. Okay, CDN Norse Dog Dad says, if a politician takes AIPAC money, then they should be in the words of wise man Willie Nelson, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out. 100%. Notanother.com, notanother.com. If your politicians take $1 from Israel or give $1 to Israel, vote against them in the primaries. You don't have to vote for the other party. Make sure you clean out Congress with all the Israelis that are betraying us. We'll be back. Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. John Marr, thank you for the contribution through Super Chat. CDN Norse Dog Dad, thank you for gifting the membership on YouTube. And Vincent Hamilton, thank you for joining, brother, by hitting the join button below. Please, everybody, it's a great way to help the show, and we really need it. Obviously, we're battling a lot of tough opponents here, and so if you can, join or upgrade through the join button. Anna, what's next?
Well, there's a little more from the Tucker/Huckabee conversation that I want to get to. So the Epstein files came up during Tucker Carlson's debate with US Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Huckabee sure did play dumb while displaying a shocking level of disinterest when it came to pedophiles victimizing American girls. Take a look.
The current president of Israel, current president, who I know you know, President Herzog,
Knowing very well.
apparently was at Pedo Island. That's what it says in the disclosures. And of course, we know that the former prime minister, Ehud Barak, was living on and off at Epstein's house. So still living high-level Israeli officials are directly implicated in Epstein's life, if not his crime. So I would think that you'd be following this.
Only I was not aware that there was any connection with President Herzog. I would be surprised to hear that, and knew there was about the former prime minister, who apparently had a lot of dealings with Epstein. But there's a lot going on in this part of the world, and frankly, that has not been top line item.
But you're surprised to hear that the current president of Israel, whom you know, is listed as a visitor to Pedo Island.
Had never heard that. Never heard it even in the Israeli press.
You know, there's like so many other things going on. I don't really have time to be concerned about a pedophile ring tied to Israel that's carrying out sexual misconduct and rape of American girls. So can we just move on now? That's effectively what Huckabee said there. Amazing.
Yeah. So first of all, if I'm ambassador to a country, let's pick a random one, Kazakhstan, and it turns out the current president of Kazakhstan went to, Pedo Island, as he's calling it, with Epstein, that would literally be my job to know that. Like if an interviewer surprised me with that, that would be deeply embarrassing. I'm the ambassador to this country. But of course, Mike Huckabee is not our ambassador. He's Israel's representative. But Anna, there was one telling moment there outside of that Epstein conversation. And he said, and of course, there's the overall point, which is like, oh, Epstein, what's the big deal? I mean, he was just raping American kids. He didn't even do anything to my beloved Israelis. In fact, he worked for Israel and getting cyber weapons and so many other deals. But my favorite moment was actually, he said, well, I didn't even hear anything about that, even in the Israeli press, which was an accidental confession that we do such a great job of controlling the American press. They never criticize Israel. But in the Israeli press, you could actually find out some truth because we can't call them anti-Semites. And even in the Israeli press, there was no reporting on this.
No, Cenk, you're absolutely right. I did catch that actually. And as I've said on this show a million times before, I get my news about Israel from Israel. So I'm very aware of what gets covered in Israeli press versus US press. And it hadn't really struck me until the moment I heard Huckabee say what he said. I actually haven't seen much in the Israeli press in regard to the Epstein files. I certainly haven't seen anything about President Herzog. So that's not to say that there isn't any reporting at all. Obviously, I'm not like a superhero. I can't read every single thing that they put out. But in terms of like the main publications, I certainly haven't seen anything about the president's relationship with Epstein. But look, there's one other part of this Epstein portion of their conversation that I want to get to, because look, Epstein's ties to Mossad did come up. And at this point, anyone who is denying that Epstein had a close relationship with Israel is either ill-informed, okay? I'll give them that if they just don't know. But in the case of Mike Huckabee, I would just venture to say they're just trying to cover it up. So let's watch that exchange.
You attacked me personally for suggesting that Jeffrey Epstein had ties to Mossad, and you said that.
You think he does?
What's very clear he does from the files.
You think he does? From where do you get that?
Well, the fact that he was in contact repeatedly with members of the Israeli government, including the current president and the former prime minister, and all kinds of Israeli intel-connected people. I'm not saying he worked for Mossad. I don't think we know that. But there's no question that he had extensive contact with CIA.
But I think you said it, a turning point event. Everybody knows Jeffrey Epstein.
I said everyone thinks, and it turns out everyone was right, that he did have.
I'm not sure everyone was right or everyone thinks.
You haven't looked at the evidence, and you're not pushing for the release of the total corpus of evidence. And I'm confused because I want to believe that your goal is to get to the truth, and the fastest way to do that is by releasing the evidence. Don't you think?
You suggest that I can release the evidence?
I'm suggesting that you could call for it right now.
Well, fine, call for it. Let's have it all open. I thought it was being all opened up for everything I.
Once it's open, I hope you'll read it.
I'm pretty sure that Huckabee is acutely aware of Epstein's close relationship with Israel, and yes, Mossad. I do have one, criticism of portions of this interview that Tucker carried out, because look, everyone knows what you already think, Tucker. So just say it. Okay, you've already said it before. Yeah, Epstein worked for Mossad. Now, whether he was an agent or an asset, we don't know for sure. And I don't even think it really matters. I mean, just this week, a story that DropSite News broke had to do with how Ehud Barak would spend so much time at Epstein's Manhattan apartment that the Israeli government set up security, including in-depth surveillance of that Manhattan apartment. And you're gonna tell me that Israel didn't know? You're gonna tell me Israel didn't know? Really? Come on.
No, I just gotta say this, because I keep mentioning the cyber weapons, and I'm not sure people are like fully comprehending it. Think about it, guys. Is there just a random guy who's not working with Mossad? Hey, honey, I'm gonna go grab some milk and eggs from the grocery store, and on my way, I'm gonna get Israel cyber weapons. No, there's no such person. You get Israel cyber weapons if you work for Israel. That's not complicated at all. So like this, they're all lying to you. It's right there. He procured cyber weapons. That's an intelligence operation, and you work for that government. That's the most obvious thing in the world, let alone the mountain of other evidence, including the Israeli spies staying at his place. And literally every international deal he did was for Israel. They're just lying to you in the most brazen way you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I highly recommend watching the full conversation. It was about 2.5 hours long, give or take. And they even talked about Tom Alexandrovich, who was one of the Israeli government officials having to do with, cyber protection and stuff like that. He was in the United States, got caught in an FBI sting operation, attempting to solicit a 15-year-old for sex. And the United States allowed him to fly back to Israel, and he hasn't been extradited. Doesn't look like Israel would even agree to extraditing him. It was a great conversation. Please check it out. All right, now with that in mind, I want to move on to the final story for the first hour. It's an important one because yet another American has been killed by Israel. Terrorist Israeli settlers have slaughtered yet another American citizen. This time, 18-year-old Nasrallah Abu Siam, who was killed in the West Bank as the other American citizens were. And he's just the latest victim of this deranged culture among these settlers who feel entitled to taking the land in the West Bank, stealing the homes of Palestinians. Now, Cenk, your thoughts before I give you more details about this tragic story.
Yeah, so this is the 10th American killed in Israel with no consequences at all, and our government doesn't even ask for justice. So is our government really our government? So as you hear Anna tell you the stories of how they murdered him, think about how much you would want justice for an American who was killed like this, but you will receive none. Because Israel is above us, and we have to accept them killing our citizens and having no consequences. Now, if you think I'm exaggerating, go ahead, Anna, give them the facts.
So the Israeli settlers attacked a farming village in Mukmas. This happened on Wednesday. Now, this area has been repeatedly targeted by Israeli settlers who have assaulted residents. They've committed arson, literally lighting people's homes on fire, and they have also built outposts. Now, we have reported over and over again about the Israeli government essentially emboldening these individuals by announcing that they are going to make illegal settlements formally legal for whatever that's worth under the Israeli government's rule. And whenever the IDF soldiers are there, they're not there to protect the Palestinians from terrorist Israeli settlers. They're there to further embolden the settlers as they carry out acts of violence and steal homes. So this attack snowballed into additional conflicts between Palestinians and residents in the area. Residents in the area and the Israeli settlers. And when the Israeli Defense Forces arrived, it only enabled them, right? So the violence didn't settle down or anything like that. Here's what one eyewitness says, quote, "When the settlers saw the army, they were encouraged and started shooting live bullets." He added that they clubbed those injured with sticks after they had fallen to the ground. So in the case of Abu Siam, the 18-year-old American, Palestinian American who was killed, he was beaten and he was on the ground, and an eyewitness claims that a settler then shot and killed him. Abu Siam's father told the New York Times that his son was in fact born in the United States, however, spent most of his life in the West Bank. And here's what he said to the New York Times, quote, "My heart is on fire. I'm broken. He helped me with everything." The Israeli military stated that the incident was under review, which means that it's not under review, which means that yet another American citizen has been killed by Israelis and there will be no justice whatsoever. This will be yet another instance of a tragic story where an American was victimized, but it'll be memory hold. Trump doesn't care, our government doesn't care. And to be fair to Trump, if you want to consider this fair, there were American citizens who were killed by Israeli settlers under the Biden administration. He couldn't be bothered to deal with it either. So it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, we the American people really don't have representation in either party when it comes to, I don't know, justice when terrorists rob us of our lives. That's what we're dealing with here. No arrests have been announced, by the way.
Of course not. So why do I say of course not? That's not just a throwaway line. Here, let's show you graphic 6. This was the 9 Americans killed before Abu Siam. Now it's up to 10. In just the last 3 years by Israel. There has been no accountability, no jail time, no arrests for any of them. They can literally murder American citizens and 100% get away with it. Our government doesn't even ask for anything. And you could see all the lack of accountability there. That's from Grok. Jacob Flickinger was killed in April 2024. He was an aid worker and they'd killed and murdered him in an airstrike because he was trying to help Gazans eat. And Israel, that's the only one where any action happened at all. Israel dismissed the officers who murdered him. They were not arrested, of course, no jail time. It's just an American life. It's, and by the way, Flickinger is the only one on that list who isn't a Muslim American. So they're like, okay, a Christian American, we'll give you a little bit. We'll pretend to dismiss that guy and later we'll probably hire him for something else. But the rest of them. Now, when people point out that Israelis get to murder Americans with no consequences, sometimes the only pushback I ever get, Anna, is they'll say, yeah, but they're all Muslims. Wait, is that a thing? Can other countries go, oh yeah, we can murder Hindu Americans, Muslim Americans, Buddhist Americans? I mean, as long as they're not a certain religion, we're allowed to murder them even if they're Americans. Is that a thing? Is that a standard? So
okay, I just want to be clear. They'll kill Christians too, and in fact,
they killed Flickinger.
Have killed Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, like why you think you're safe because you're Christian? Are you ridiculous? Like that's, first of all, even if you think that is true, you're a bad person. Thinking that any group of people deserve slaughter simply because of their religious beliefs or their identity is disgusting, and I reject it in any and all forms. But you're also wrong, okay? If the Middle East was full of Christian majority countries, we would be hearing about how, ooh, those Christian terrorists, they really had it coming. I guarantee it, guarantee it.
Yeah.
How many Christian churches have been bombed by Israel? How many? The one Catholic church in Gaza, bombed by Israel. In the West Bank, in Jerusalem, how many Christians have been persecuted by Israeli terrorists? You think you're safe? Okay, okay, good luck.
Yeah, so yeah, they did bomb churches, and when I measured that in social media, Israel's defenders go, yeah, but it was only a couple of bombs.
They're terrorists, okay? They're terrorists, they're terrorists, they're terrorists. Plain and simple, time to wake up. That's what they are.
And look, on another show, we'll show you videos of settlers who brag about how they're gonna wipe out all the Gentiles from the Middle East because it's their land. So they're not hiding it. The settlers are Jewish supremacists, and they say it out loud all the time. Jews are the chosen people. They deserve all of that land, and anyone who's on that land should be killed, and we should take that land instead. Now that doesn't represent all Jews at all. The settlers are radicals. They're terrorists.
They're extremists.
They're extremists, they're terrorists, and they're supremacists, right? But why are we giving money to these terrorists? It's insane. And then they use the money to murder us. And then we're supposed to bow our heads. And if we don't bow our heads, our media goes, shut up about those Americans. They're irrelevant. But you're an anti-Semite. You're the real problem. Not Israel that murders American citizens, but anyone who criticizes Israel for murdering American citizens. And there's no other country on earth where you can kill 10 Americans in the span of 3 years, let alone 1 American, and there wouldn't be massive consequences. And finally, guys, go to tyt.com/campaigns. We'll put the link below. Those are our different petitions, including the one on Alexandrovich, because he came here for sexual tourism, because now the Israelis laugh at America. They go, we can do anything we want, it's our playground. So he came to rape our children. We let him go back to Israel. And Huckabee is saying, who cares? We're not gonna extradite him. He's an Israeli, he's above Americans. Americans are inferior to the Israelis. And if they wanna rape you, we're going to send them back home. We arrested the guy, he was in prison. All the Americans who were arrested with him are still in prison. He's the only one that was free to go because he's above us, he's an Israeli. That's where we are today. Anyone else telling you otherwise is literally lying. Those are the facts. They can't dispute the facts. That's why they do ad hominem attacks. Those facts are correct, but if you state those facts, then we're gonna try to label you a bigot and end your career. So that's how much control Israel has in this country. All right, Anna, thank you so much for doing this on a Friday. Those are super important stories. We really appreciate it. When we come back, Jordan Yule's gonna join us. We got more for you guys, including Donald Trump gets slapped around by his own, kind of his own Supreme Court, since he nominated so many of those guys. And he's furious about it, and he's vowing to destroy countries that defy him. All of that when we return. There's one reason why healthcare is so messed up in this country, and that's because of our money in politics situation. Because those industries that are deeply corrupt can just simply purchase all of Congress. And then the problem never gets fixed because of that bribery. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's greed, and it's the greed of politicians, right? I mean, so everything they do is dictated by the donors and the money. I mean, I shouldn't say that, not everything. A lot of what they do is, and I do think that there are people who do things in spite of the fact that they have to raise money and often don't get that money and often don't win because they don't, but are in there fighting for ideals that they believe in. Bernie Sanders is certainly an example of someone like that.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it
doing...
was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
You wanna know the 3 shows that I'm watching lately? Shogun, Anjin-san. Those guys are badasses. Then you go to the Duttons, Yellowstone. Now they don't always do it right, but they are badasses. But the 3rd show has the biggest badasses of all, the Young Turks. Live every weekend. Sick that I was so good. God damn it. Okay, live. Weekdays at 6 o'clock Eastern. That's what I meant. Anjin-san.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. The mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it, and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
$50,000. I don't know why you're laughing.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk Uygur, Jordan Uhl with you guys. Also, Boxy Brown and Ruby Hoove. Thank you guys for gifting memberships on YouTube. We appreciate that a lot. And I just quickly want to tell you about Noble Mobile, because it really does save you a lot of money. People writing in about how much it saved them. Max you could pay is $50, although right now it's $40 off the first month. So it's a great time to act. TYT.com/switch. If you switch, nothing on your phone changes, but your bill goes down dramatically. They also give you money back for data you don't use, so I've only been paying in the 30s. TYT.com/switch, and you will literally save hundreds of dollars every year, and nothing else on your phone will change. All right, Jordan, what's next?
Take a look at this.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing. And I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country.
In a 6-3 split, the Supreme Court struck down some of Trump's tariffs this morning, and he is not happy. Justices Roberts, Gorsuch, and Barrett voted with the 3 liberal justices, and in his press conference about the decision, he made his anger at Gorsuch and Barrett, specifically who he nominated, quite clear. And we'll get into more what he might be doing next. But first, Cenk, what are your thoughts on this decision?
Yeah, there's 2 sides to this. Is the decision right or wrong? And I'll give you Trump's point of view. And 3 justices did vote for him, and it's not crazy, but ultimately he was wrong, and I'll explain why. But also the fallout from it. You know, he's now threatening to destroy a country. So what does that mean? Let's find out.
Here's what you need to know. The US Supreme Court said President Trump's tariff policies imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, are unconstitutional, dealing a major blow to the president's signature economic policy. In his majority opinion, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote, "In light of the breadth, history, and constitutional context of that asserted authority, we must identify clear congressional authorization to exercise it." Roberts wrote, concluding Trump has not. Now, the government could be on the hook for more than $175 billion in refunds to corporations. The potential refunds to a broad range of companies would be for tariffs already collected by the government, since Trump slapped on the duties without authorization from Congress. But let's get back to that press conference for a moment for more of his reaction, starting with this.
Justices Gorsuch and Barrett, are you surprised in particular by their decision today? And do you regret nominating them?
I don't want to say whether or not I regret. I think their decision was terrible. Yeah. I think it's an embarrassment to their families. You want to know the truth, the two of them.
Now, singling out those justices specifically could make for a tense dynamic at the State of the Union next week, and he was asked about that.
Are they still invited to your State of the Union next week? And will you speak with them?
They are invited, barely. Barely. 3 are happily invited. No, they're barely invited. Honestly, I couldn't care less if they come, okay?
It's so fragile. And in his press conference, he let the mask slip about what the tariffs were ultimately being used for.
Now the court has given me the unquestioned right to ban all sorts of things from coming into our country, to destroy foreign countries, but a much more powerful right than many people ever thought we even had, but not the right to charge a fee. How crazy is that?
Now, Trump is saying he has a plan B. The US will impose a 10% global tariff, President Trump announced on Friday, to replace many of the duties ruled illegal by the Supreme Court in a decision that morning. The new tariffs will be imposed under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, Trump said, which allows the president to impose tariffs for up to 150 days. During that time, Trump said they would also begin new tariff investigations under Section 301 of the Trade Act, which can result in more permanent tariffs. Cenk, what do you make of this?
Yeah, so I want to explain the legal side of it first. So the Trump administration said the IEPPA, which is a law, gave them the right to impose these tariffs. Why? Because they're the emergency power, the executive branch does, and the president does, to deal with regulation and imports. Like, well, you know, imports, that's tariffs, right? So understand that when you go to the court, usually, although sometimes Trump's side doesn't even bother making a case or presenting evidence, which is stunning. But in this case, they did, and it's a legitimate argument. And they say, okay, because it says those two words, this law applies and supersedes the part of the Constitution that says that Congress has to pay, enact taxes, not the executive branch, not the president, right? So the Supreme Court said to that, no, the Constitution is above any bill that you pass. And the Constitution is not unclear at all. Congress has to do taxes, not the president. And the president cannot unilaterally impose a tax, and tariffs are indisputably a tax. Second of all, the law that you're talking about doesn't say anything about tariffs. So if Congress had an intent to override the Constitution on tariffs, they would have mentioned tariffs in that bill, and they didn't. So it's like his case is not absurd, but it's clearly wrong. So that's why the courts kind of didn't have a choice, in my opinion, if they're trying to interpret the law in a sane way. And so obviously the Constitution supersedes, and they've got to follow it, right? So, okay, so that's the good news, and they did their job. At the same time, I have to note that a lot of people have a misnomer about the Supreme Court. We've talked about this on the Young Turks many times. Well, are they right wing or are they left wing? Are they Republicans or are they Democrats? No, the Supreme Court is mainly picked based on how much they'll serve corporate power. So that's why Gorsuch is on there, because he said in one case, he was the only judge that looked at it at any level, and they said that if you don't follow your company's orders to freeze to death, then you should be fired. Okay, that's a real case, you could look it up. And guess which side Gorsuch went with here? He went with against Trump and against the tariffs. Why? The Chamber of Commerce and corporate interests are against tariffs. So 3 of the justices, even though they're conservative or Republican, voted with what seems like it's not really the liberals. That's why I'm saying it's a misnomer. They voted with corporations. They almost always vote with corporations. Obama and Clinton used to brag about how the justices they appointed were so in favor of business interests. So it's come from both sides, that conclusion. Now, in this case, I think they're right anyway, but I want you to understand their motivations, and you'll see that most often they're not following the law strictly, they're not following right wing or left wing strictly. They're almost always vote in favor of corporate power above anything else, and that's also what happened here. Now, when you turn to Trump's reaction, obviously maniacal as always, right? And I've got this killer quote here. First of all, they're an embarrassment to their families. I mean, no one knows how to do trolling better than Trump and insults like if we talked about this before too, like if his career path was as an insult comic like Jeff Ross or something, that would have made a lot of sense. He'd have been pretty good at that, right? But to me, the killer line, Jordan, is at some point he said, but I'm allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country. In other words, I can destroy the trade, I can destroy the country. Who is like, this is why we told you to vote against Trump, because this is how he thinks. I can destroy anyone and anything in my path. What I'm worried about is the country he's going to destroy is us, not anyone else.
Yeah. And that type of isolationist policy or thinking is something that we see in other aspects of his policy. And for other countries, why would you want to negotiate with somebody like that? Why would you go out of your way to help a country like that? It's why you don't see people buying into his Board of Peace plan. And it's why you see people thumbing their nose at the idea of trade negotiations for these tariffs. Like the guy is a tyrant. But the piece that interests me is the refunds, because we're going to see a prolonged, drawn out battle over that, because those corporations are going to want their money back. There is a slew of lawsuits already over those rebates or refunds, because they argued that those were enacted and implemented illegally, which was confirmed today by the Supreme Court. But the piece that's interesting to me is, what about the people? What about the people who had to pay higher prices for the past several months because those corporations passed those costs of those tariffs onto the consumer? So those corporations ultimately brought in more gross revenue. They had to pay some to the government. They want that money back, but they got it from both sides. What do we get? We get nothing. And also, corporations love to use moments like this, just like they did with the supply chain crisis that led to higher inflation in 2022. They like to blame those moments on, or say that those are justifications for raising prices rather than letting it affect their bottom line. They pass those costs on to us, but then they keep the prices high and they continue to grow. So we're already seeing higher prices off of the supply chain and inflation crisis of the middle of Biden's term, and then they got higher with this. They're not going to bring those costs down, so they want a refund and keep the prices high. And at the end of the day, we all get screwed, and it is effectively yet another transfer of wealth from the working class to the top. We've seen it time and time again. This is no different.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So they pass or state a perfectly reasonable conclusion on this case, but then they come in with Salt Bae and sprinkle in a little bit of, oh, here's $175 billion to corporations. Yeah, and plus you can kill your workers if you want. I mean, it's absurd. Wait a minute, we paid the tariffs. They raised prices on us. Where's our refund? Supreme Court says, no, you didn't get me elected or selected to the Supreme Court. My beautiful Chamber of Commerce did. I served them. So now we got to pay back the corporations 175. Nah, that's maddening, man. Maddening. Of course, as usual, the American people get bupkis, nothing. So you got no ally in Trump, you got no ally in the Supreme Court, and Trump says, I'm gonna do 10% anyway. I don't care. I don't care what the law says. So you're still gonna have higher prices. And later corporations will want you to double pay for that too.
I guess the one last thing I want to say before we got to go to break is we saw this in a conversation on Fox yesterday on the topic of a wealth tax, making the wealthy corporations pay more, both in New York and in California. And Jesse Waters, just a grotesque individual, but said the billionaires should get out ahead of this and employ a bread and circuses strategy with this superficial appeasement, where they should just, he was being disgusting, saying buy everyone a value meal from McDonald's or make the homeless people fight for entertainment like you would the gladiators. But even on this point, that appeasement was the refund checks or the rebate checks that Trump had kind of tossed out there, but was never firmly committed to, potentially up to $2,000. He was asked about that recently by a reporter, and he said, "I did that."
Yeah,
didn't even remember making that promise. And now, of course, we certainly will not see that because he's going to say that his hands are tied because he has to pay back the corporations because of litigation. So no matter what, we're getting screwed.
Yep. And with that, we'll go to the break.
I have concepts of a plan.
He's a psycho.
All right, guys, if you can ring the bell, that would be amazing. If you share and like the live stream and all the videos, makes a big difference. So we appreciate it. All right, let's go to our members on TYT.com. 36 Chambers Dragon says, not only are they smearing it in our faces, Cenk, they're doing it with our own cake and laughing at our faces too. Yeah, Israel First feels like they can't lose. And what's amazing is that there's this giant tsunami of opposition to Israel today, in a way that I've never seen in over 30 years of covering the news, and they're more brazen than they have ever been. And they're like, so I think what they're doing is they realize they lost the media wars and their propaganda isn't working anymore. So they're trying for full intimidation and suppression. So you have that to look forward to. In fact, we're in the middle of it. Solidarity Works says, I can't believe I'm sitting here going, yes, 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 Tucker. You go, smear the MF on his own turf, referring, of course, to Huckabee. I agree, but some others didn't. I'll try to get to them in a second. Spider-Man Dragon says, Abraham is held as father of Judaism, Christianity, and Muslims, so it's for everyone, you moron. He says to Huckabee. Uriah Heep says, get Jeremy Sachs on the show, Cenk. He shares your views on Israel. We've had Jeremy on the show before, and we should get him back on. Yeah, he's brilliant. And I appreciate him. Boomer Dragon Cat says, I expected Trump to burn down the US. My imagination failed me. He wants to burn down the whole world. Smitten for Anna says, I'm asking honestly, what action would our government be likely to take if another ally murdered 10 Americans in a similar time frame? Travel restrictions, sanctions. Oh, there would be record-breaking sanctions at a minimum. At a minimum. Imagine if Turkey, which is a super strong ally of America, they're a bulwark against Iran, Russia, and the second largest army in NATO. If they killed 2 Americans, let alone 10, there'd be hell to pay. But they're not beloved Israel, and they don't control our government. Israel does. So Happy Warrior Dragon, thank you for gifting 2 subs on Twitch. You're awesome. So this is the one I was referring to. Bradshaw Crew of One said, TYT's getting behind Tucker for agreeing on Israel. Meanwhile, Bibi's still killing innocent women and children every day. How is siding with Tucker doing any good? He's a terrible person and part of the reason we have MAGA. The left will gain nothing from him. I'm amazed, I'm stunned by that comment, but that's okay. I used to get angry at that. I don't get angry at it anymore. So Jordan will be happy to hear that. So look, brother, I can't believe you look at that Huckabee interview or the Ted Cruz interview and you go, not doing us any good. He destroyed Ted Cruz, he destroyed Mike Huckabee. He's fighting for the things in those interviews and in those issues that we care about. Why would you reject that help? It doesn't mean you have to agree with him on everything. How many times do I have to say this, right? But that's amazing. So yeah, Bibi's still killing everyone, but Tucker's against that, and he's fighting the people who are for it. I'm just perplexed.
Tucker Carlson, a terrible friend.
All right, back on TYT, Jang and Jordan with you, more news.
Let's start with this.
I have to listen to the fake news talking about affordability. Affordability. Do you notice what word have you not heard over the last 2 weeks? Affordability. Because I've won affordability. I had to go out and talk about it. But we inherited a mess.
Donald Trump is now claiming to have won affordability, whatever that means. Jank, are you buying it?
All right, I think that's going to be his mission accomplished moment. So we're in for a lot of economic pain coming up over the next 3 years. I'll explain why in a little bit. But him bragging like that's going to go in so many commercials. Hear me now, quote me later. All right, Jordan, give him all the facts first.
So during his speech at a steel mill in Georgia yesterday, Trump boasted wildly about the economy and claimed that the media had stopped talking about affordability because of how good it is.
You don't hear the word affordability. You know, they just say the word. They look at the camera, say affordability. And I'd be watching, I'd say, oh, I can't believe it. Do people believe it? They would say affordability, everybody would say, oh, Trump's caused. No, they caused the affordability problem, and we've solved it. And we're going still lower, but we've solved it.
I have two questions. One, why is he so wet there? And second, what's the truth? While inflation is nowhere near where it was mid-COVID, Trump has not solved the inflation problem as he's repeatedly claimed. In reality, there have already been higher than usual price increases for utilities, electronics, appliances, and other household staples in 2026. Home electricity prices are up 6.3% and natural gas service 9.8% in the last year, while prices for ground beef have jumped 17.2% and coffee 18.3%, according to the January Consumer Price Index. Additionally, the core personal consumption expenditures price index, which excludes food and energy, rose 3% in December, up 0.2 percentage points from November. That matched the consensus forecast, but kept the pivotal inflation measure well above the Fed's 2% target. On a monthly basis, goods prices climbed 0.4%, while services increased 0.3%, indicating that price pressures remained relatively broad-based, rather than concentrated in any single price category. And the annual inflation rate in January was 2.4%, only slightly lower than the 2.7 annual rate at the time of Trump's election in November 2024. That's why the American people aren't buying Trump's claim that he has won affordability. And a survey released this month by The Economist and YouGov found that just 34% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of the economy. That puts his net approval rating on the economy at negative 23 points, the lowest it's been in either of his terms. The survey also found that just 31% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of inflation, and 53% believe the economy is getting worse. And while Trump is bragging about the economy in public, his team knows affordability is a major liability for Republicans in the midterms. His chief of staff, Susie Wiles, reportedly held a closed-door strategy session this week to talk about messaging. Wiles, Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair, and pollster Tony Fabrizio spoke during the meeting about how energy, housing, healthcare, fuel, and grocery prices desperately need to be Republicans' main focus right now in order to put up a fight in the midterms. Unfortunately for Trump, he got even more bad economic news today. US growth slowed much more than expected near the end of 2025. Gross domestic product rose at an annualized rate of just 1.4%, according to the Commerce Department, well below the Dow Jones estimate for a 2.5% gain. Trump lashed out when the news was announced, writing on Truth Social, "The Democrat shutdown cost the USA at least 2 points in GDP. That's why they're doing it in mini form. Again, no shutdowns. Also, lower interest rates. Too late, Powell is the worst. President DJT." It's always someone else's fault. And I'm very curious, Jank, with the State of the Union on Tuesday, how he's going to try to spin all of this negative news.
Did he mean to misspell two in that too late?
Maybe he meant 2%, like 2 point. I don't know. It could have been a.
Okay.
I'm not going to try to make sense of anything he says, honestly.
The president's a child, so who knows, right? So maybe we shouldn't elect children going forward. All right, look, here's why the economy is going to be in a world of trouble, although there's some irony here. So they're basically lying about the job numbers. Trump fired the guy who was giving the accurate numbers. So that's why they had to adjust the 2025 numbers by, oops, it turns out there was 1 million less jobs. And that's among the reasons why they had to adjust it. The AI apocalypse is coming, and Donald Trump and his administration appear completely unprepared for it. They never talk about it other than to say, hey, isn't AI great? Dow's above 50,000, right? No, not great. It's good. The irony there is that we might lose so many jobs that inflation might go down because no one has any money to spend. And then the disastrous war with Iran is coming. So he is going to, let's see, I love to, make these predictions and see what happens. But I think that the rest of Trump's term will be cataclysmic. It'll be an absolute epic disaster, and maybe unlike any we've seen in our lifetimes. And so at that point, people will come back to, I solved it. I won affordability. And my guess is people will be furious. So he's already lost trust with his own base over the Epstein files. So once you lose trust, then all of your lies are exposed, because then at that point the curtain is lifted and you realize, oh, he's not the populist hero fighting for you. It turns out he's another con man from the elites, and he just wants to do things for his own vainglory and ego. And once people see that, then everything unravels for him, and he's at the beginning of the unraveling, nowhere near the end. It's gonna get pretty ugly.
Yeah, that's something that's been on my mind a lot. I mean, we talk about this fight in New York to tax the wealthy there, this potential billionaire tax in California, and they're trying to do the same old scaremonger. Oh, we'll just leave. No, you won't. You're not gonna leave like two of the best cities in the world. You're not gonna do it. And to me, it sounds like you're talking about people like Mark Zuckerberg, $220 billion, 11 homes, 3 yachts, not even a dent. All of that together, not even a dent in his net worth. And he's, I don't want to pay more in taxes. What do you need that money for? And the greed that we're seeing there and we're seeing here, these corporations raising prices, stretching people thin, and of course, that is an extension of his tariff policies, which ultimately benefit the corporations, especially these refunds come through. We get screwed. The collective greed at the top is unsustainable. And like you're saying, it could get ugly, but I don't think they recognize that. When you throw in AI, the job loss is there, the outsourcing, all of these things that continue to stretch people more and more, they can only stretch so much before they break. And these people are so greedy and so hubristic that they don't even recognize what might happen, how ugly things might get. They don't care.
Yeah,
I don't think they care. They're so detached from reality that when you have a single person controlling more wealth than the bottom half of the country, they think that's totally fine. No, we can't have taxes on billionaires. Let them sort it out. The hatred they have for the working class is just truly repugnant.
Yeah, so I think there's a head-on collision coming, Jordan, on a couple of counts. And I don't know what's gonna happen. You know, I mean, just made a prediction earlier. I love making them. But on that one, it's a black box to me. So here's what I mean by that. There's two different collisions that are gonna happen. One is a topic we've been talking about a lot, which is the establishment says Israel's the greatest ally we've ever had, and we should keep sending them money, et cetera. And now the entire American people, left, right, and middle, go, no, we're done with them, right? And then there's this issue, and the establishment says, well, that was over 50,000. This is the best of times. AI's miraculous and wonderful. Or the rich are getting even richer. This is the greatest times. And the rest of the country is hurt, dog. Don't ask them if they're all right. And they're getting angrier and angrier, and that's a head-on collision. Now look, on this show for over 20 years, we've been covering the difference between the establishment and the rest of us. And so, even so, I have never seen that difference as stark as it is today. Like when I go to talk to normies who still consume establishment media, they're on a different planet. They don't understand anything we're saying. And they go, oh, you guys are being hyperbolic. That's ridiculous. No, like Israel controls us. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard, right? Oh yeah, like you were saying, they give to 94% of Congress. That fact is anti-Semitic. You're crazy, crazy. Oh, AI is going to destroy all these. What are you talking about? No, I got Nvidia stock. Nvidia's doing great. I don't know what you're talking about. You guys sound nuts to us. Meanwhile, like the rest of the country's like, what are you doing, man? Our wages haven't gone up for 50 years, adjusted for inflation. And we can't afford anything anymore. And so Edwin had a great line the other night. Edwin's our stage manager here. And he said, they're worried about the stock market, we're worried about the supermarket. And they just don't get it because they're too rich. They're blind. And Jordan, I'm worried about the collapse, but I'm also worried about what's gonna happen afterwards, because it could go in the wrong direction. So all those super rich billionaires, they think, oh no, you're charging me, you wanna charge me 1.5% more tax. I do declare, Sir Topham Hatt, go get them, right? Guys, you'd be so lucky, man. After the collapse, people are gonna say, none of us have any money anymore. Oh right, those guys up there, the 900 billionaires, they have almost all the money. Why don't we redistribute that wealth on a much grander scale? Because they redistributed it to themselves by rigging all the rules on their behalf. And that's a fact. That's another fact that mainstream media covers up and lies about and doesn't tell you about. But we can show you exactly how they rigged the rules to get that money to flow to the top. And at some point, people are gonna want that money back. They're gonna want the money back from Israel, and then things are gonna get weird. And so we're now at the beginning of the unraveling, and it's the establishment and the people in power have no idea what's coming next. It's a head-on collision.
Got to take a break, but we'll be right back.
The word affordability is a con job by the Democrats.
over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing.
All right, let's go to Super Chat. Mikar Dave says, every time somebody asks an Israeli supporter anything, they should preface it with, do you support Israel keeping thousands of Christians in Area C under an occupation that Israel says will never end? Again, that is factual. They have occupied Area C now. They're beginning to annex the West Bank. Yes, thousands of Christians live there, and yes, Israel says we're never giving it back. But hey, that's okay, because they're above us and we're inferior to them. That's what our politicians and media tell us all the time in their actions. Timothy Gibbons says Israel's plan is to sacrifice the USA in a war against Russia and China, thus removing America's control, just as they did with the King David bombing. Becoming Zion means it's essential the other world powers are destroyed. No, Timothy, I think you're going too far. They want to continue to milk us. So they don't want America fully destroyed. They want to take as much as they can from us, and they want us to fight all their wars. So are they, like, on the other hand, they love that the Ukraine war is sapping Russia of its strength and its military prowess, etc. So it's just for their own benefit. The damage it does to Russia and America is just a side benefit. Honestly, it's done no damage to China. When they go talk to the Chinese, they're like, "Oh, you owe Israel." The Chinese are like, "Say it again, say it again." We owe Israel. Hey, guys, come in here, come in here. The Israelis say we owe them. Meanwhile, us Americans are like, "Yes, sir, of course, sir. We're so sorry, sir. Yes, sir, we owe Israel, sir." Okay. Elliot ZP says all humans came from modern day Kenya/Somalia. In what world can anyone go kick Kenyans out and take their homes? By the way, that's a great point, man. Like, so I guess the Kenyans own everything, since they are the ones that we all came from the Kenyans. So that's Israeli logic. Pessimistic Progressive wrote in on the TYT.com. To all your critics that say you platform Tucker too much, I'm sure TYT would love to show clips of CNN, ABC, MSN, etc., asking these same questions, but where are they? Has anyone in media asked about Epstein's connections to Israel, the traitor Jonathan Pollard, Israel's war crimes, Greater Israel, etc.? I hate many of Tucker's positions, but he's legitimately the only person asking these questions, and I'm glad he's opening people on the right to this corruption and Israel first. That's an inarguable point. And God, I wish I could interview Mike Huckabee, or Kyle Kulinski could interview Mike Huckabee. That would be amazing, but we can't. Tucker can, and he's the one that asked those questions.
The word affordability is a con job by the Democrats.
Tucker Carlson, a terrible friend.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. Don't forget to switch to Noble Mobile, save you hundreds of dollars throughout the year. Your phone number and your phone don't change. TYT.com/switch. TYT.com/switch. Pay in the 30s instead of in the hundreds, which is a lot of people pay. All right, Jordan, what's next?
AIPAC just helped a pro-Palestine progressive win her primary, but the organization is stating they have no regrets and they would do it again. Cenk, your 2 cents here.
No, I love the irony of this. So you're gonna see wonderful Jewish Americans standing up to AIPAC. You're gonna see AIPAC bury a candidate, but then accidentally promote an even more anti-AIPAC candidate. So this is a beautiful story. Jordan, give him the facts.
So Tom Malinowski is a New Jersey Democrat and self-proclaimed Zionist, but AIPAC's PAC spent over $2 million to make sure he did not win his district's primary, all because he stated that Israel should not receive unlimited and unconditional aid from the United States. Analila Mahia won the primary instead. In response, a spokesperson for AIPAC stated, "We are going to have a focus on stopping candidates who are detractors of Israel or who want to put conditions on aid. We had very serious concerns about Tom Malinowski, who clearly was open to conditioning aid to Israel. He knew that he had moved to what is not a pro-Israel position. Adding conditions to aid to Israel and undermining the US relationship is a top priority for us in assessing candidates. Malinowski has since promised to campaign against any candidate who is supported by AIPAC. In response to their branding problem, AIPAC is attempting to go undercover, but it's not working. In the state of Illinois, 2 groups have recently launched an onslaught of campaign ads. They are Elect Chicago Women and Affordable Chicago Now. Their ads have nothing to do with Israel, yet both are accused of serving as AIPAC's puppet organizations. Why? Well, they use some of the same vendors as AIPAC, and they're supporting candidates with a lot of AIPAC-linked donors. Not to mention, AIPAC has used shell organizations in the past. Elect Chicago and Affordable Chicago are once again attacking Democrats who don't believe Israel should receive unconditional aid from the US. Their strategy has already cost them one key endorsement. Donna Miller is a candidate for Illinois' 2nd District. Affordable Chicago Now is supporting her campaign. Sitting Representative Jan Schakowsky endorsed Miller last month, but now she's taking back that endorsement. Illinois deserves leaders who put voters first, not AIPAC or out-of-state Trump donors. And these are the same types of groups, Jank, United Democracy Project, who we heard from earlier in this piece. They throw millions at people like Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman to try to get them out, but their ads never touch on Israel.
Yeah, I love the fake words that they use because they got caught before, and we were among the people who caught them. So when they spent $4 million against Nina Turner, they did it through a PAC called Democratic Majority for Israel. And we kept asking, where's the Democratic majority for Cleveland, which is where that district is? So no, like, and AIPAC has the word Israel in it. They're saying, yeah, this is so that American politicians don't serve America, they serve Israeli interests. And they're not hiding it, guys. You heard Jordan's quotes, just let that sink in for a second. They demand unconditional aid. So they say it doesn't matter what Israel does, you owe them. And you know what? If Israel kills Christians, who cares? Okay, kill Americans, who cares? It's unconditional. They do a genocide, who cares? It's unconditional. A Holocaust, it doesn't matter, it's unconditional. They attack all their neighbors, it doesn't matter, it's unconditional. Well, what if they attack America? It doesn't matter, it's unconditional. Americans have no choice. You must submit to Israel, and you're not allowed to complain about it, and you're not allowed to put conditions on it. That is insane. Imagine any other country coming in, Bosnia, coming in and go, I demand unconditional aid. But wait, what are you gonna do? Shut up and give it to me. Otherwise, I'm gonna eliminate you from the American Congress. Well, it seems like the Bosnians are kind of running this place when they spend millions eliminating Nina Turner and Malinowski and Marie Newman and Cori Bush and Andy Levin, and we go on and on. You're anti-Bosnian and you should be eliminated too. No, these are thugs. They're not from our country, they're from a different country. They're trying to manipulate and control our country. And anyone who takes AIPAC money is a traitor, and you should never vote for them. We have a website, notanotherdollar.com. Go and sign the pledge. I'll never vote for a politician that takes Israeli lobby money, and I'll never vote for a politician that gives a single more dollar to Israel. That's our money, they don't have any right to it, conditional or otherwise. Now, as always, we tell you guys, look, they try to make it, there's two groups that are trying to make it about religion. Groypers and Israel First. They both say it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. Now, we tell you that's not true, and we could prove it. So, and we do it all the time. We've given you dozens and dozens of examples. We give you hundreds. Jan Schakowsky, yet another person who's a wonderful, progressive Jewish American, and she's saying, no, if you're taking money from AIPAC, I'm withdrawing my endorsement. And it doesn't have anything to do with religion. It has to do with, are you serving our country or a different country? So God bless Jan Schakowsky for doing that. A wonderful progressive throughout. And so, Jordan, we're at a crossroads here, man. So most of the politicians still don't get it. Schakowsky and some of the others are pioneers and trailblazers, and a lot of times they'll take heat for it. But most of Washington's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Of course I'm gonna take millions of dollars from Israel, and of course I'm gonna loyally serve Israel, and the media is still backing them up. So again, I don't know how this movie ends, but I love that they got rid of Malinowski and got someone that was more against Israel, and I hope they keep wasting their money that way. But we don't have to give Israel anything. We don't owe them. They're giant liars, and honestly, I don't know if I'm going too far. If you think I'm going too far, I think they've literally been robbing us for all this time. Like if any other country Mongolia took $330 billion off of us while pretending to be our special ally and having a Christian shaman heritage and whatever other garbage propaganda. And then we woke up one day and realized, wait a minute, why did we go to war against all of Mongolia's enemies? And why did we give them $330 billion? We would say that was a robbery, an absolute robbery. So yes, what do you think, Drew?
Well, let's be clear about what they're upset about. They are upset about all members of Congress, but in this case, Democrats, saying that we should enforce our own laws. So the conditions on aid is us enforcing the Leahy laws on aid to Israel, which says you can't support or provide aid to a country or a military that you know is committing human rights violations. We know Israel is. Us, the objective observers, know that. The members of Congress who are funded by AIPAC have blindfolds on and somehow can't see the human rights atrocities occurring in Gaza and the West Bank. They're saying, we're gonna fight to get you out if you defend and uphold your own laws on human rights. That's the issue here. And I also want to add some context to how these types of super PACs operate. So DMFI, UDP, those are arms of AIPAC where they have, it's a little bit more clear with Democratic Majority for Israel, but United Democracy Project, that could be anything. The ads that they ran against people like Nina Turner weren't about, again, Israel, and weren't even about Cleveland. They attacked Nina Turner for criticizing Joe Biden. Do you think that they care about that? AIPAC backs Republicans. They don't care about that. They back J6ers. They don't care about that. They want to manipulate you. On the other side, totally different issue, the same tactics that people need to be aware of. On the crypto space, there's a large super PAC called Fair Shake. They have two arms, one called Protect Progress, which supports Democrats, and one called Defend American Jobs, which supports Republicans. Now, all of these groups, all they're doing is going for candidates or incumbents who will bend over for the cryptocurrency industry. And one of the ads I saw they're running in Houston to try to get Al Green out and support this younger guy, Christian Menefee, goes after Al Green because it's time for a new generation of Democrats. They don't care about that, and you can tell because they're also supporting people in their 70s and 80s who support the crypto industry. They are lying to you. They are exploiting our campaign finance system. They are corrupting our society so these crypto industry guys can fight against any and all regulation for their notoriously predatory industry. They're doing it with Israel and they're doing it with crypto. People need to wake up, and that's why the fight to get money out of politics is so important.
Yeah, so they say, we got to get rid of Al Green because we need a new generation. And that's why you got to vote against Nina Turner because she wasn't for Joe Biden. Wait, what? Okay, now look, the people that run those ads know that they're liars. They know that they're lying to you. They know that they're saying two different things. But if you call them deceptive, they go, Trump, I'm the victim. And so why do they do that, guys? Now that I'm back in my seat, because they have a partner in this, a silent partner, so not nearly silent enough in my opinion, that is not talked about, and that's mainstream media. Because when they say that it's a trope, they know mainstream media will come in and go, okay, that person's an anti-Semite and is never allowed to speak again, and that's it, their career is ruined, we've eliminated them now. The second thing is when they go, you see Nina Turner wasn't supportive enough of Joe Biden, the line that they use against her so effectively was Nina had said, voting for Biden is like eating a half bowl of crap, right? But the rest of the sentence is voting for Trump is eating a full bowl of crap. But since the Israeli lobby and mainstream media were working hand in hand without any memos exchanged, it's groupthink. They both love Israel. They both hate outsiders. They hate progressives and populists, both on the left and the right. So it's almost like an assist. So then mainstream media took that and they're like, you guys are running all those ads saying she's not for Biden enough. And almost every article read had only half the sentence. They also, Nina Turner says voting for Biden is like eating a half bowl of crap. They didn't mention that she said that Trump was a full bowl of crap. See, that's how you know they're deceptive and they're lying to you. And mainstream media lies to you all the time, all the time. And so that's why they feel brazen they can say this. Look, if we had a real media in this country that was representing Americans, like their average readers and viewers, wouldn't they ask, what do you mean unconditional? Like, so I gave a bunch of hypotheticals. Jordan gave you the real issues. So you're saying it should be unconditional even if Israel violates our laws. And they say yes. You're saying it should be unconditional even if Israel is committing war crimes. That's the violation of the Leahy law. And they say yes, you should pay for our war crimes. And if you don't, you're an anti-Semite. And our media goes, that's true. Well, okay, then our media is liars. Why didn't anyone in the establishment media ask any of these questions? Why did they purposely smear Nina Turner? Why did they never tell you that the group's Elect Chicago has nothing to do with Chicago? It's a front group meant to deceive you on behalf of a foreign government. Do you think they wouldn't have told you if Elect Chicago was a Russian PAC? Or do you think they would have said, the Russians, Russia. Rachel Maddow would have been like, the Russians are in Chicago. They're pretending that they're for Chicago, the Russians, right? Isn't it super weird that they don't say that about Israel at all? Come on, man. And to Jordan's point about the crypto guys, Israel's the tip of the iceberg, guys. The issue isn't Israel, the issue is money in politics. So here's another great deception by establishment media. So big oil comes in and goes, oh, we're the victims, we need subsidies. You guys are the most profitable companies in the world. They're like, yep, nope, every year we want $35 billion in subsidies. That's 10 times what AIPAC takes. And they go, nope, you owe us. And no one in media goes, why do we owe ExxonMobil and Chevron $35 billion? What a bunch of criminals. They obviously legally bribed all of our politicians, and those politicians took our money and gave it to them. That's a robbery. But instead our media goes, no, nothing to see here. Money in politics is not important. We never talk about the donors. The donors have no effect. Oh, look, Lindsey Graham and Chris Murphy are having a debate. Oh, Lindsey Graham won the debate again. I guess we're going to war. It has nothing to do with the oil companies, the military companies, Israel, or any of the donors. It's just that Lindsey Graham won the debate. Okay, so now you know almost everyone in legacy media are liars. And what's amazing about it, we gotta go, but what's amazing about it is they don't know that they're liars. They think like, I am a serious journalist working for ABC. And the donors have, well, they get a little bit of access, but they don't have much influence at all. And anyone who criticizes Israel is an anti-Semite who should never be allowed to speak again. And of course, AIPAC is holy and wonderful, and you should all serve Israel unconditionally. Otherwise, you're all anti-Semites, and the whole country should be fired. And I am a news reporter. Are you? I'll leave it at that. Okay, Jordan, much love, brother. Everybody check out the Insurgents podcast. Love it when you're on the show. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm coming back. I got an interview with someone, we've forgotten climate. The whole country has. The planet is still burning. We'll talk about that. But now here's something super interesting. After the interview, I'm going to share with you guys a bot that I caught, pretending to be a left-winger, but actually an Israeli bot. Oh, you guys are gonna love this, so stay right here.
This is a robbery!
All right, back on the Revolyoution. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. We got two fun things for you guys today. We got an interview, and then after the interview, I caught an Israeli bot pretending to be a left winger. You guys are gonna love that part. All right, you're also gonna love this interview. Joining me now is Junior Ezeonu. And he is a lot of things. It's a funny introduction, but he is Mayor Pro Tem of Grand Prairie, Texas. He was the youngest city councilor there. He's running for the Texas House of Representatives District 101, and he manages Climate Cabinet's political program. So a lot to talk about. Junior, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Cenk. I'm so excited to be here, man. I've been watching you since I was 9 years old. So it's a full circle moment. I'm so excited to be here.
That's awesome. Look, I got used to the fact that I'm old, so that that doesn't bother me as much anymore, or it really didn't bother me that much to begin with. But I love to hear that. Seriously, the fact that you've been watching now for 16 years or so, that's amazing, amazing. It makes me feel retroactively good about the work we did back then when we weren't sure anybody was watching. But okay, now let's talk about your work. So talk to me about Climate Cabinet. For folks who haven't heard of it, what is that?
Yeah, so Climate Cabinet is a pro-climate action organization, and we support pro-climate candidates all over the country. We focus solely on states and local elections because we know that's where most of the impact is. On the federal level, we really struggle to find the ability to pass bipartisan legislation or just pass legislation that's really focused on climate action, other than the Inflation Reduction Act, which Trump did, basically destroy and just dissipate recently. So we focus really on the state and local. So far this year, we've already endorsed 36 candidates, 36 climate champions across the country in several important states. And there's 3 in particular that I'd love to talk to you today about who are gonna really do really good work and are running in really important elections.
So before we get to the 3 candidates, tell me about what the objectives are. First of all, I totally get why not to do national, because well, the way I would frame it is that it's because the national guys are bought, and you'd have to spend an enormous amount of money unbuying them, right? So it makes sense to go to the local state level. But what bills could they pass? What could they do at the local and state level that would make that action worthwhile?
Great question. So let's say state legislatures. On the state legislature level, they can pass policies, pass bills that help with siting for solar farms or wind farms. They can pass legislation that increases investments into clean energy programs. They can, for city council, like for example, for me as a city council member in Grand Prairie, we passed policy to upgrade our fleet to have electric vehicles. To reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in our city. We've conducted studies, we work with different organizations. On the local and state level, it's quicker. There's more action that's possible in a quicker fashion compared to the federal level where like you said, it's very expensive to support good candidates. And even when you get a few good candidates in, it's them against the rest of everyone else that's bought by fossil fuel money. So it's very difficult on the federal level, and it's a lot quicker on the state and local level. And we've seen a lot of progress in states like Michigan who have passed comprehensive and amazing pieces of climate action legislation over the last few years. Minnesota's another one which passed some big legislation when they had the trifecta, and we're looking to do that in some other states this year.
Junior, how worried are you that we're going to waste another 3 years here under Trump? We already wasted one. Like we were worried about the planet, before, and now we're just taking 4 more years off the clock, and we're going to have to play even more catch up later. So how much does that keep you up at night?
It's terrifying, right? It's scary because Trump is just, he has so many issues and he does so much bad to our country and our world, but he's also just slowing down progress. But we can't sit on the sidelines. We can't, cry and complain about it. We've got to get in the game. And Democrats can't just be defensive the whole time and try to slow Trump down from doing his destruction. We have to be offensive in states that are competitive, whether it's states like North Carolina, states like Pennsylvania, in states like Michigan, in states like Texas. Texas has a lot of potential in pushing for pro-climate policies in the near future. So it's unfortunate that we're here right now, but Cenk, I'm gonna tell you this. You are somebody that inspired me to be who I am now. I talk about my job as a council member and a candidate for the State House of Representatives in Texas. A lot of my progressive views when it comes to policy and public policy came from you, came from Bernie Sanders. That 2016 Democratic primary really helped me cultivate who I am now as a leader. And I think it did it for a lot of other people. What y'all done with the Justice Democrats, y'all did a lot of good for a lot of us and helped us get to where we are now. And I think better days are ahead, but we have to fight, and not just fight back, but fight on the proactive front as well.
All right. Well, you're too kind, but I appreciate it. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so let's talk about. I love your attitude of let's fight forward, right? So tell me about the three candidates you guys are backing.
Yeah, so we have somebody in New Mexico running for land commissioner, Juan Sanchez. So New Mexico is a Democratic state. It's a state that should have more pro-climate policies, but oil and gas money has just corrupted a lot of people that should be on the right side of these issues. So Juan Sanchez is running for land commissioner, and land commissioner oversees thousands, hundreds of thousands of acres, and whoever wins this race can decide if New Mexico will move in a pro-climate future or still be bogged down by the corporate and oil and gas money that has slowed down the state's progress when it comes to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning from fossil fuel dependency, moving towards pro-climate policies. Another race, which Jake, I think you'll find fascinating, is in North Carolina, House District 106, where we have a Democratic incumbent that has voted very poorly on several issues. I'm not gonna name her. If y'all go Google her, y'all find who serves in that seat. Has voted to override the governor's veto several times. It's just been a nightmare for Democrats in North Carolina. And we have an amazing pro-climate candidate, an environmental advocate, Reverend Rodney Sadler, who's running in North Carolina. I mean, he's gonna win this race. And their primary is the same day as my primary, actually, March 3rd. So it's coming up. So he's an amazing candidate that we need. An amazing brother that's gonna get into that seat and fight for the issues and fight for the values that we care about. And then lastly, I told you, state and local, right? State and local. We're invested and we're supporting Jamie Collins in Deschutes, Oregon. Deschutes, Oregon is a pretty large county in Oregon. He's running for the county commission, and the county commission is split. It has a Republican majority, and he's running to flip the county commission towards a pro-climate majority. And if we win this race, there's so much work that can be done, so many policies that can be passed on the local level to move us in the right direction in Oregon and make Deschutes a leader, not just in the state of Oregon, but across the entire Pacific Northwest. And we're really excited to support Jamie Collins and would ask you guys to consider supporting him as well and the other candidates.
So Junior, what's a website that people can go to help on all this?
Go to climatecabinet.org where you'll see our mission statement, why we do what we do, the 36 candidates that we've already endorsed, and we're going to endorse a lot more throughout this 2026 election cycle. Go to climatecabinet.org. You'll find out all their information. You'll find where you can contribute to these candidates. You'll find their websites and and how to support the work that we do at Climate Cabinet, because we help these candidates run, win, and then legislate. The legislation is also an important part of it, because we can't just run for office for vanity's sake. We got to deliver on public policy that helps everybody.
So now tell me about your race, because here's what I'm interested in. You're in Texas, and now all of a sudden Texas, everybody always just talks about how Texas is going to be in play, and then it never is, right? But I mean, somebody just won in a district by I think 7 that Trump had won by 17. So
no, he won by 14 in the district that Trump won by 17.
That is a 31-point swing. That is a tsunami. So what are you hearing on the ground in Texas? So the two things that I'm seeing from pop up, and I'm curious what you're saying, is, are you seeing dissatisfaction with Trump from Trump voters? And are you seeing any talk about like this, the government's too corrupt, money in politics? Because I'm beginning to see that from independents and Trump voters at a greater scale than I had before, but I'm not on the ground in Texas. So that's what why I was curious about it.
I'll tell you like this, tremendous dissatisfaction amongst Trump voters, conservatives that are just disappointed with him. I overheard some conservatives talking the other day about a trip that they had when he went to Washington, D.C. And they came back and they said they couldn't believe how corrupt the government is currently. And this is just me talking as an elected official, as a candidate as well. This is not me taking off the climate cabinet hat. But they were talking about how just shocked they were at the corruption during this Trump regime, this Trump administration. It's insane. And you have a lot of Texans that that voted for Trump because they thought Trump would make their lives better. He would help with the economy, but they're super dissatisfied, super disappointed. And I'm gonna tell you, some of them are coming out and voting in a Democratic primary right now. So I want to tell you the lay of the land, what's happening right now. So in Texas, we're having the Democratic and Republican primaries for the 2026 elections. Our election day is March 3rd, but early voting is taking place right now, and it ends on the 27th of this month. And we are seeing record turnout in the Democratic primary. In Tarrant County, I live in Tarrant County. That's where that Senate District 9 race happened, where we flipped a Trump plus 17 district and won it by 14. In Tarrant County, we've seen 27,000 people vote early in the first 3 days for the midterm. Normally, we're seeing no more than 8,000 or 9,000 people in the first 3 days. We're tripling the turnout. In my district, House District 101, throughout the first 3 days, we had 3,100 people vote early in my district. My district is all in Tarrant County. 3,100 people vote early. My district, on average, with the incumbent who's been there forever and never had a primary opponent, we average between 6,000 to 7,000 votes. No more than 6,000 to 7,000 votes in a primary. So we're going to pass that by Sunday, maybe Monday. The turnout, the average turnout. People are excited. A lot of Democrats are excited to vote, but you even have a lot of dissatisfied independents and Republicans that are coming out and saying, we're done with Trump, we're done with the Republican Party, we want to vote for change. And in my race, I'm challenging a long-term incumbent Democrat who's been there since I was 9 years old. I mean, this guy's been there forever. He's not a bad guy, but he's part of that corporate Democratic wing. And it's time that we have progressives rise up, populist progressives that run on these working class issues, on these kitchen table issues, and work on delivering on affordability. I always tell people about affordability when it comes to homeownership, not just housing. We're always talking about housing and building more units. We also have to create programs where people can buy single family homes, build up wealth, and buy something that they can transfer over to their children one day or their grandchildren. We got to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 an hour. We desperately need that. I did that as a city council member in Grand Prairie, got it to $15 an hour, but for the state, we need it on the state level. We have to fully fund our public schools and repeal that private school voucher law. That law is destroying our public education, and Democrats and Republicans agree on that policy. So there's so many things that we're seeing folks come around to. And one other thing I want to say, Jake, I don't want to give you too much credit on this, but I got to give you credit. 10 years ago, when Bernie was running in 2016, 10 years ago, he was touting a $15 minimum wage. 10 years later, $15 minimum wage has become a mainstream thing. We got states like Missouri and Nebraska putting together and passing a $15 minimum wage that went into effect in January of this year. So we can do it in Texas. We can do it in the South. We can do it in states that are not purple yet, but getting there. It's very possible. Being a progressive is now mainstream. Y'all saw what the New York Times had with that focus group. Progressivism is mainstream now. It's the norm. It's no longer far left or whatever. Everybody wants to be a progressive, and everyone is supporting our populist issues because it affects their day-to-day lives. People want to have homes. They want to be able to put their kids in quality public schools, and they want to live in great communities. And that's what I'm fighting for as someone that's running for state representative right now and trying to push our state forward and then help elect other populist progressive Democrats that focus on these economic issues. When we focus on the economic issues, you win a lot of voters that otherwise wouldn't have wanted to vote for you.
So we'll put Junior's website as a link down below as well. So make sure you're checking that out. Okay, we're gonna go lightning round now, Junior. I got audience members that wanna ask you questions, then I wanna ask you some lighter questions and on a serious one. All right, so Killjoy100 just wrote in, can someone please ask Junior to explain Ted Cruz? Everyone hates him, why does he keep getting elected?
Ted Cruz should have been beat in 2018. The only reason that he won in 2024 was just the Trump effect. Trump turns out a lot of Republican voters that otherwise won't vote. But Ted Cruz is a deplorable politician. Most of us despise him. Republicans despise him. And in 2030, he'll be out of there.
All right. Miss Callie Dragon asks, does he support pineapple on pizza?
That's a great question, because I do. I love pineapple on pizza. To me, it's an amazing topping for pizza. But it's crazy because people are so split on it. Either you love it or you hate it, and I love it.
All right, and for me now, what's your favorite show, TV show these days?
I've been watching Industry on HBO. I've really been enjoying Industry. Check out Industry. It's a very interesting show. That's what I've been watching recently. But yeah, Industry is my show right now.
All right, sounds good. And my favorite question, in high school, other than watching the Young Turks, what did you do for extracurricular activities? Sports, band, what'd you do?
I was a hooper, man. I was a big basketball player. Loved basketball in high school. I mean, that's my sport, basketball. So if you ever come down to the DF Dub and you want to go hoop with me, I'd be happy to go and have a good time with you, Jane.
I'd love that. Well, now that I'm past my knee surgery, I'm starting to warm up to get there, and I'd love to do that. We got to bring Bernie too. Remember, he's a baller. Okay.
Hey, the big three. I'm ready for it. Let's do it, man.
All right, last one is a serious question. If you could do one thing to fix American politics and get our government back for the American people, what would it be?
Public financing of elections. Public financing of elections. I mean, this is something that, Jank, you've talked about for years. I learned this from you, but I'm experiencing it literally in my race right now, where the incumbent who's been there forever has $800,000 to my $100,000, and he's on TV every second of the day. But we've knocked on 13,000 doors, and it's given us a real good opportunity. We've done what we can to send out enough mailers. Like, let's say this dude has sent out 20 pieces of mail in the last 2.5 weeks. Like, it's insane. So public financing of election just gives everyone an opportunity to run competent and robust campaigns and touch enough voters in a fashion where they get their name out there, and it's really important. So that's one thing I would do: public financing of elections.
Yeah, I love it, and you're right. For me, that's the correct answer. And by the way, that's why Zoran Mamdani won in New York, because he was able to get an 8-to-1 match in public financing. All right, Jordan Ezeonu, everybody check him out in Grand Prairie, Texas. We'll put the link down below, and also Climate Cabinet. Still doing great work, and we still got to win on that issue. So don't make sure you keep your eye on that ball, everybody out there. Junior, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Jank. And let me know when you want me to be back, because I'm coming, man. I love this show. I've been watching y'all, and I'm gonna keep watching y'all. Thank you for having me.
All right, I love it. Thank you, brother. All right, so that was fun. That was great. So now I want to do another segment for you guys. That's also fun. So I know that there's a lot of bots and trolls online. Nobody knows that better than me, because they're all over my mentions, and they are on a lot of different issues. And there's trolls that go in one direction, bots that go in another direction, etc. But lately, over the last couple of years, of course, I've been talking a lot about Israel. So if you go to my X account, you'll see as many Israeli bots and trolls as you could imagine, right? And every once in a while, they will change up their talking points, their propaganda, their attack lines, right? And you could tell, and this is like a hobby of mine. I love looking at it, and because they'll do it at the same time. So they'll be like, okay, we have resurfaced the thing on that where Cenk is talking about horses. You are horse. You're like, okay, yeah, those are all the bots that got their new talking points. And then they'll move on to another one. They move on to another one. And recently, the one they moved on to is saying that Cenk is not a good enough leftist. Interesting. Okay, now I was like, there are a lot of real people who do think that, right? That's not fake at all. There's a bunch of folks, real viewers, certainly some of the hosts on the left, etc. And they think, we don't hate the right wing enough, and they genuinely believe that, and they have their beefs, and they say, and by the way, they have some legitimate disagreements, right? So I think, for example, having Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson as allies on anti-war and getting rid of Israel's control over the government, etc., is helpful. They don't. They think that no, like we don't need their help at all, etc. We have honest disagreements. It's okay, right? So I don't want you misinterpreting what I'm saying here as there is no real people that are against me on the left. There certainly is, right? But some of them are bots, and that's the sense that I got. And then I caught one. So I love this. So there's this guy, Clib Hub Politics, right? And he's constantly in there, and lately he's been pretending that he's on the left. Now I say pretending, let's find out if that's true or not. So I did this tweet. I said Israel should be banned from the Olympics and every international competition until they free the Palestinians. They're preventing Palestine from existing against all international laws. Why should they get the benefits of the international community when they never abide by the rules? I happen to think that's a very fair comment, obviously, because I made it, right? So now a lot of folks disagree, but what I thought was interesting, I'm like Clip Hub Politics. This is the guy that I see all the time in my mentions say, oh, Cenk's not on the left enough, he likes MAGA so much, etc. So he says in this case, has Palestine ever sent female athletes to the Olympics? If not, how come? I'm like, wait, that's not a left-wing position. You're against the Palestinians and you're gonna put on an Israeli talking point about how they're bad to women as Israel has slaughtered how many tens of thousands of women in Gaza? And you're on the left? So then I say, wait, weren't you pretending to be a leftist who's upset at me for not being far left enough? And now you're crapping on the Palestinians and protecting Israel? Whoops, you let that mask slip, brother. And I thought there, he's just gonna leave it alone, right? Nope, he comes back. No, I asked you why you care more about Palestine than America, and you couldn't answer. Just like you couldn't answer this question. It's because women weren't viewed as humans in Palestine. You're pretending to be on the left, Mr. Israeli bot? I don't know a single person on the left, no matter what our disagreements are, that thinks that Palestinians don't treat women as humans. No, we've got an issue with one side not treating people as humans. That's the Israelis and how they are slaughtering the Palestinians as if they aren't human. Now, maybe you could be a right winger and have that point of view. You could be Israel first, but you're pretending to be on the left of me and you have that point of view? Nah. So I said, okay, so you're not on the left. You're an Israeli BSer trying to get the left to turn on each other. Thank you for the confession. And then he says, answer the question already, you MAGA ass-sniffing turd. I love that one because he goes back to the original talking point of, you're pro-MAGA and you're sniffing something or another. God damn it, I let the mask slip because I hate the Palestinians so much. I had to say it, boss. I'm so sorry. I did poorly. I know I'm supposed to pretend to be on the left. All right, guys. Now, what's the point of this other than it's fun and there are bots in the world, and which a lot of you already knew. But I'm going to actually give you a quote from the Times of Israel because they had something really interesting to say about this. I'll get to that in a second. But the point of this, guys, is be careful what you see online, right? So a lot of people that are pretending to be something they're not. You are all relatively familiar with it, but when you're interacting, sometimes you forget. Like you think that they're real human beings. A lot of times they're just automated programs. They're not even human, and a lot of times they're trolls and with specific, marching orders, etc. But the most important part in this case is what they try to do is actively divide the country and divide movements. Right? So they want to divide the left and the right. They hate unity. They despise it when we come together. So as I was saying it, I just realized, well, some people accidentally help them, okay? But that goes back to our normal disagreements. If the other side is gonna come and agree with us against being against war, I know a lot of people don't think they're genuine. They said it hundreds of times. I don't know when they're gonna pop out of the cake and go, I was secretly for war in Israel, but okay, it's okay, that's fine, that's the disagreement. But they want to make sure, the Israelis do, that the right wing and the left wing do not get together, because that's the only force powerful enough to maybe drive Israel out of our government. But also they want to divide within the right wing and within the left wing. And so they think, oh, well, if we can get the left to turn on Cenk and we can get the right to turn on Tucker, then we'll use the left that is not in favor of Israel to get rid of our enemies for us. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the opinion you have or have any opinion you like. Just keep an eye out for that, right? Don't let them divide you. If you have normal disagreements, that's okay. But if you get sucked into this thing and you think, oh, all these people on the left hate the Palestinians. Yay, go Israel. Come on. Or that guy's not pro-Palestinian enough, or that guy's too pro-Palestinian. They're constantly trying to divide. So now what's amazing is that the Times of Israel, as usual, does really good reporting. We often go to the Israeli press because our press is so cowed by Israel that they almost do no criticism of Israel because they're worried they're going to be called anti-Semites and their career is going to be ruined. But everybody in Israel is Jewish, so they can't use that trick on them. So Times of Israel with brilliant reporting saying about half of the politically active accounts on Israeli social media are not real people, but rather bots, including many of those boosting posts by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and members of his right-wing coalition, according to an investigation by Channel 12 News. And Channel 12 is a different Israeli press outlet. So yeah, buyer beware, people on social media be aware. Don't let them split you up. Don't let them get you to hate someone on your side. And then whether that's left or right, or it's on a particular issue, Israel or any other issue. So there's tons of nefarious characters out there, including, as the Israeli press wrote, about half the people who pretend to support Israel are actually bots. And of course, our press doesn't report on any of that because beloved Israel, and they bow down. All right, so that's the state of affairs out there, and now I hope you see what's going on a little bit clearer. So let's go back to mixing it up. Let's go back to agreeing and disagreeing and fighting and coming back together. But as long as we're doing it with real people and you're representing your actual policies and your actual goals, and even if you have different strategies to get there, there's no problem at all. But don't let them mislead you into hating one another, because there's so many of these bots and trolls that are, their whole purpose is to do that. And in this case, to divide the left so that they cannot effectively oppose Israel. All right, much love, guys. That's what we got for you today, and we'll see you on Monday.